Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and happy 2021. We welcome you here to Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the G-Force Sim Racing Series, the Grand National Series race number 9, as the sun sets here in Lakeland, Florida at USA Speedway. I'm Seth Cole, alongside of Samuel Dyer. And Sam, there's a lot of times that we come to certain tracks and we kind of beat the dead horse in terms of how the track is and things that drivers are going to be looking for. I think one of the broken record sayings we're going to be using here tonight is probably going to be rear grip and traffic control.
Yeah, that rear grip is going to be probably one of the most important things coming off these corners. These drivers are going to be struggling to find grip as drivers are starting out on qualifying. Newcomer on track, the 83 of David White's out there.
David White there in that Chevrolet, going to come around here and try and lay down the first lap of his G-Force Sim Racing Series career. Devon's Deals the sponsorship on that machine, as he's going to cross the line here and clock in with a 22.177, which actually I believe is the best lap that he's laid down all night. He was having a bit of a struggle getting to the 22s during practice, so a pretty solid lap there to start things out for David White.
Yeah, David's a newcomer here to the G-Force ARCA series and also a newcomer to iRacing. So it's going to be interesting to see how this 83 machine is going to be evolving throughout the night. And that is his fast lap of 22.074. Going to be finishing out. So almost got into the 21s, which that's where we're going to be seeing a lot of the other competitors running. The fastest during practice was a 21.164 by Gerald Campbell, who will be our last competitor to put out a qualifying time. But this track here at the U.S. International Speedway is going to be a wild one. This track is small, but it's kind of deceptive. The straightaways are so much longer than most straightaways at other short tracks that you kind of have a little bit of the draft to work with as we're still waiting on the next competitor to go out there on track.
3/4 of a mile in length and about 14 degrees of banking in the corners for these drivers. And just to talk about Gerald Campbell here for a little bit, he comes into this race the points leader. Two things that we have to kind of look at in terms of that 25 here this evening. Number one, he's got a shot of going to victory lane for a third time tonight. The last couple of weeks, it was Shane Tyrion going to victory lane in back-to-back races. But not only that, Gerald Campbell's kind of got to stop the bleeding, because in the last two races, he's given up points to John Whitendorf. What was nearly 100 points 2 races ago has now been cut down to 27 points.
Yeah, and also it's bringing in Hank Steinmiller, who's going to be 91 points back, so still in striking distance for that machine. But Weindorf is in that possibility of just consistency, might win this machine a championship, as it looks like he's still not won a race this season. But Gerald Campbell, he's won twice. The only issue is both those wins have been at mile-and-a-half courses, and I believe we're going to be at short tracks from here on out throughout the season.
Yeah, I believe you are correct on that. We've got USA tonight, Iowa next week. We then head to the Monster Mile of Dover, which many people, even though it is a mile in length, do consider it a short track in the style of racing. And then we finish the season off at North Wilkesboro. And another thing, too, these drivers, they have not taken to a track since December 22nd when they were back at Texas Motor Speedway. So, of all places, a short track to come back to. You got to wonder if some of these guys out in practice had to get a little bit of race rust knocked off.
Yeah, and USA International Speedway isn't really known for a track for these drivers to be going to for short track racing. But here in the ARCA cars, they get to try it out as drivers getting set to go out. I believe the car that's going to be taking the first run should be the 7 of Jackson McLaren if he's at the ready. If not, that's actually going to be the 5 of AJ DiMarzio as drivers are getting lined up and ready to get qualifying underway.
DiMarzo right now rolling. DiMarzo looking to make what will be, I believe, his... Let's see, find it here. There we go. 9th start of the season. He's actually run all 8 races up to this point. DiMarzo coming into this race 20th in the point standings. It's kind of been a little bit of an up and down driver. It's actually, nope, looks like it is indeed going to be the 7 of Jackson McLaren, who is now rolling down to the entrance of pit road. So we'll actually look at McLaren's statistics coming into this race. Jackson coming in, making his 5th start of the season. Still looking for his first top 10 finish, average finishing position so far this year of just inside the top 20.
Yeah, and I think really right now Jackson McLaren's just thinking of getting a top 15 finish and just finishing out this race. The 7 machine's been kind of struggling here recently with the last couple of races of trying to just finish out these races. It's been very difficult at times, and I think it's going to be even more difficult this time around here tonight, this course is pretty narrow compared to other courses, and if there is carnage that happens anywhere, most likely up to 2, maybe up to 5 or more vehicles are going to be caught up in a single car incident. It's going to be tricky to see as Jackson McLaren going to be out there on track.
And maybe we'll see this trend as these drivers continue to put down laps, but going back to the laps that David White put down, we saw the second lap be faster than the first lap. And a lot of times at the track that are tire killers, we see drivers go out there and do one and done because they're not going to be any faster on their second lap. Is that the case here tonight, or with the fact that we're in sunset conditions, is the track a little cooler for the second lap to actually do something?
No, I think for White, I think he just put down an extra lap than he was supposed to. Usually these drivers are only allowed 1 lap to put down, so we're expecting them just to put 1 lap down. It looks like McLaren might have had an invalid lap for himself. So that is going to be hurting the 7 machine, as that on track is that 5 machine of DiMarzio.
And one thing we're going to have to keep an eye on here as well that I saw a lot of drivers doing in practice was getting tight off of 2 and 4 and getting up into the wall. And we know that contact with the wall is more than likely going to throw away your lap. Look right there how much DiMarzio had to bail out of the throttle to make sure he didn't get up into the fence.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt this 5 machine's lap. Going to be putting him outside of this 21 marker, a 22.223 for that 5 machine out on track. Now it's going to be Randy Koking in that 19.
Rapid fire qualifying going on right now. As soon as one driver heads out to take the green flag to start their lap, the next driver heads out as Randy Koking down the back straightaway, looking to head for 3 and 4. Last couple of races, Randy Koking's qualifying efforts have really picked up.
Yeah, I mean, the qualifying is picked up, but it's the race finishes that have been still hurting for this 19 machine, as that time around looks like it's going to be a 22.405. So still David White, that lap time of a 22.0, still working and on top of the board, as it looks like Shane Lake will be the next driver on track as we're waiting for him to come out there. As we wait and see who is going to be the next car. But yeah, no, really, I think a lot of these drivers that are in the back half that are qualifying first, a lot of their goals this coming later into this season is just finish the race. Hope that you can get a top 15 finish, because a lot of them, that's been the biggest struggle. It's just finishing these races.
Now, you talk about finishing the race, and the thing that we talk about all season long is these drivers are coming to every single type of configuration of track with no fast repairs. Well, we're at a short track. We know that there's going to be some sheet metal exchange during the course of this race. You don't have that fast repair in your back pocket, so that's a little bit treacherous when you're coming to a short track, I would think.
Oh, it is extremely treacherous for sure. I mean, look at how we've seen in the beginning half of the season. We saw a lot of drivers really trying to race recklessly like they had a fast repair to work with, but they really didn't. Now the time has started for Shane Lake and this 81 machine, rocking purple all over that car, and going to be getting a pretty good launch out of 2, looking good for Lake.
Shane Lake through 3 and 4, 21st in the points coming into this race. Also another driver still looking for his first top 10 of the season. Looked pretty smooth there through 3 and 4. We'll see where this is going to situate him. So clock in with a 21.732. So first driver to hit the sub 22 lap times here in qualifying.
Yeah, and that's expected to see. Next car on track is going to be James Goshen in the 85 coming out of turn number 2. And you talked about rapid fire starts. It's what we're going to be seeing a lot of as Goshen's getting ready to come out of 3 and 4. We've already got Jason Hounshell getting his lap started.
5th start of the season for James Goshen in that 85. He's going to cross the line, clocking in with a 21.49 seconds. Have a nice lap there for that machine as Hounshell now crosses the line. He is now on his official clock-in lap.
Yeah, with that time that Goshen just put down, putting him top of the board, that would actually put him around, I believe, around 20th place for these drivers. So still a very good time. That's based off of practice, as Jason Hounshell trying to stay low, and that might have hurt the 00 getting back on the accelerator, but coming across the line, that should be good enough for second. No, first on the board.
21.436. He's going to buy about 6 100ths. Hit James Goshen for the current pole position, as now it's going to be the number 4 of James Roth out on the racetrack. James Roth, 16th in points coming to this race, 2 top 10s so far this season.
Yeah, Roth's been quite surprising to see. Roth, usually when Roth is quick at the start of these races, bad luck strikes at the end. So we'll see if this Ford machine can get a good qualifying time, or it's going to decide to stay in the back and just survive until the end. Coming out of 4, looking good. That's going to be a 21.508, best for third.
It's about 7/100ths off the current pole time, but currently has him inside of the top 5. We'll have to see where he is at the end of the evening, as now the 57, the M&M's machine of Caden Thur out on track. Caden Thur, a former pole sitter from this season.
Yeah, Thor during practice was just being baffled at some of the times that our front runners were putting up during practice, and I think this 57 machine is kind of a little bit concerned coming into qualifying. Not sure where he's going to be placing himself, but that is going to be a 21.487, best for second place. And a lot of these times are slower than I was expecting to see, as now Seth Harlson and that 00 coming out of 2.
Could it be the track conditions? Because remember in practice, these drivers were running around mid-afternoon conditions. The track was maybe a little bit slicker. Now they've got more grip to work with. Might be giving them a false sense of security on how deep they can drive it into the corner.
It could be. I mean, during practice, they were running around 91 degrees track temp. Now they're around 80 degrees track temp. But Seth Harlson, with that time, top of the board with a 21.272, best time so far. And that's a time that could really hold up based on how some of these drivers have been qualifying.
Seth Harlson, so far this season, his best start, 6th place. He may have bested that here tonight with that lap time. We'll have to wait and see. Is Peyton Hill and the number 84 now on the racetrack?
Peyton Hill, came in the midpoint of this season, has kind of been under the radar for a lot of these races, but some really good finishes coming across the line. A 21.527, not great of a time, 6th on the board.
Yeah, going back to Peyton Hill, he's only made 5 starts. Tonight will be start number 6, and in those 5 starts, 3 finishes inside the top 10. So going back on that consistency note you were talking about for the 84 is Kevin Ruff in the 71. He's getting ready to make career start number 3. He's going to clock in currently 7th.
Yeah, rocking that Rainbow Warriors DuPont machine for Ruff. Going to be needing a better time because that was not the best. Because now it's going to be Cooper Johnson and that 14 machine coming across the line.
And, you watch these drivers, how they approach the racetrack in terms of their warm-up lap, in terms of their money lap. And the one thing I think that is where drivers gain and lose time on these qualifying laps is how soon they get back to the throttle in the center of the corner, whether or not it's going to push up off the corner towards the wall or not.
Yeah, and it's all about how you hit your apex. If you are able to arc your way into these corners, you can really gain a lot of time. As coming across the line, that is going to be second best on the board so far. Cooper Johnson with a 21.282. Not bad for that 14 machine.
Gave it a heck of a try. 1/100th off of Seth Harlson's time is now Hank Steinmiller. We already talked about him in the hunt for that championship. 91 points back. He's 3rd in the standings and trying to get his first win of the season still.
Yeah, I mean, Hank Steinmiller has been on the edge of starting in the back most races, but always finding himself in the top 5, top 10 most weeks. Now going to be 3rd on the board with a 21.419.
Hank Steinmiller, his best start this year, 2nd place. Obviously, will not be bettering that here this evening. New colors as well, that gold number 63 here tonight. So that's going to take a little bit of getting used to, as now the driver just above him in points, 2nd in the standings, John Whitendorf out on track. And as we said, the last couple of weeks have been really good for this 33 car. He's been able to cut into that sizable lead that Gerald Campbell had. Oh, wow, he ran really wide there in turns 1 and 2, or that was 3 and 4 rather. If he had hit the wall there, that might have actually thrown away all of his laps.
Yeah, right now Whitendorf was trying to get as much speed as possible, starting that high, trying to help himself accelerate through the straightaway. And now I think Whitendorf's thinking, I need to start up front, get a pole, make sure he is in front of at least the 05 and the 25. Coming through 3 and 4, great exit, was able to get off the apex extremely well, but that was not the time that he needed.
Wow.
That's a 21.535, even though it looked extremely clean. Only 9th on the board, and that can be pushed back even further.
And especially at a track like this, when you're in a championship scenario, you don't want to start back in traffic, because especially at the beginning of the race, when everybody's going to be up each other's gearboxes, that's the most often time you end up seeing drivers get into trouble.
And now it's going to be Jay Counshell and that 02 going to be starting his time. And right now, Seth Harlson with a 21.272, still top of the board. And this is shocking to see from the way the practice times were going. But these are the drivers that were hitting the 21.1s. We'll see what Houndshell can do out of 4.
I have to think back to when we were at Richmond. Jay Counshell was really good there. and before he ran into some issues late, as he'll clock in third with a 21.334. He's 143 points back. We have to remember that the Grand National Series uses the classic point system. So let's say that the top 3 in points have a bad night tonight and Houndshell goes to victory lane. There's no saying with 4 races left that he's mathematically out of this championship hunt yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's 4th in points, 143 points back, still has a great shot for a chance here. Kyle Johnson going to be on starting his lap. Kyle Johnson, one of those drivers that we've seen, even with a poor qualifying time, this 88 machine knows how to get up front.
Absolutely, no doubt about that, as he got tight there off of turn 2, brushes the wall, and I think he hit it, which means that's going to be a throwaway lap. So we're going to get to see, with him not having a good qualifying effort, how he's going to be able to cut his way through the field at a short track. A lot of the tracks we've seen him make a lot of quick forward progress have been the 1.5-mile, 2-mile racetracks. Now is going to be a lot more congestion for him to have to get through, as he'll undoubtedly be starting towards the rear of the field, as Anthony Guarneri in the 16 is going to head out on track, 13th in points.
Yeah, Kyle Johnson was the driver that started off our drivers that were in the top 5 of quickest during practice. And Guarneri, 4th quickest during practice. We'll see what he's got here, trying to stay low and gonna get a little squirrely and loose out of the corner. That's gonna hurt him, losing time, and that is not good. 5th on the board with 21.435.
Right now on point to his best start of the season. He was 5th in one of the previous races in the starting grid. Is now former winner Bo Brady out there on the racetrack. Brady is 7th in the points coming into tonight's event, currently 231 points back, and certainly has been good at every type of racetrack we've been at, but we haven't run too many short tracks yet this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since we hit a short track, but Bo Brady, I mean, last time we were at a shorter track, which was Phoenix during week 6, that's when Bo Brady won his race with a 21.351, 4th on the board for that 20 machine, and now it's going to be Blaine Atkin in the 05.
Blaine Atkin, former winner this season in his own right, going to try and see if he can get his first pole position of the season. Best start so far this season has been 2nd place. Was very strong in the season opener at Nashville, and he was very good at Richmond as well. Of course, winning that race. He's going to clock in 8th, though, for that 05.
Oh my goodness. Some of these faster machines, we just are not seeing them put down the pace we thought we were going to be seeing. Gerald Campbell, last driver to be putting down a time. This 25 machine, he's got the most poles of the season. We'll see if we can get another one.
It looks like we actually have another driver that's going to be taking time here after Campbell, Jeff Green in the 2. Whoa,
Ooh.
Campbell, 4-wheel slide out of turn 4. We'll see how that's going to hurt him. 5th on the board right now for the 25 car. So currently, unless Jeff Green has something to say about it, Seth Harrelson is en route to his first pole of the season. We'll see if Green can be the spoiler.
Yeah, not many of our top 10 fastest cars look like they're going to be qualifying in our top 5. This is shocking to see, as Jeff Green, we'll see what this 2 machine has, as Green was about the 8th fastest during practice, was not able to put a time except for now, coming out of 4, getting close to that wall. Ooh, was not able to best the time.
So Seth Harrelson, first time this season, we're going to be seeing that 07 Hot Hughes Chevrolet, leading us down to the green flag here tonight at USA International in the USA 150, powered by Fade Grips, and a very interesting looking top 5 as well. Harrelson on point, Cooper Johnson 2nd, Jake Houndshell 3rd, Bo Brady 4th, and Jeff Green in 5th. I mean, these are 2 guys starting on the front row that maybe we didn't have listed on our, as if we were making predictions that we would have had on our front row. So what does this mean for these 2 drivers trying to look for maybe their first win of the season?
I would probably put my money on Cooper Johnson in that 14 machine. Last time we saw him was back at Texas for his debut race, and he didn't have the quickest time qualifying, but certainly had a top 5 car. Now, with starting up front, this 14 machine might have something to get a win, but like we said, Seth Harrelson able to get the win and is awarded the Dirty Racing Podcast pole position. Remember this here in 2021, that means the podcasts are starting for the Dirty Racing Podcast.
Well, Seth Harrelson coming into tonight's race, his best starting position was 6th. He's bettered that with a pole here tonight. His best finishing position was 4th. We'll see if he'll be able to go coast to coast here tonight en route to his first win in the G-Force Grand National Series. But All right, the qualifying's over, Sam. It's 150 laps here tonight at USA International. We already know that even though there's only, 23, 24 drivers on track, it's not going to take long if we go into a long green flag run for the race leaders to catch up to the tail end of the field. So, you're one of these drivers starting up here at the front. You've obviously got to start thinking ahead. How are you going to work your way through traffic here at USA?
Your goal is to hope that the other drivers just get out of the way as quick as possible. If you're a lap car, get out of the way. And if you're going to get out of the way, you have to make sure that you move up. And if you're in the corners, move up and then hold your line. You cannot be just fumbling around, wiggling up and down on the racetrack. You got to hold your line so other drivers know how to race around you. For these leaders, it's hope that they don't get caught up in some type of wreck from the drivers that are in the back half of the field. And hopefully they can be patient enough to not cause a wreck by trying to move some of these drivers, because I'm expecting these front noses are going to be pretty beat up by the end of the night.
Looks like we will not be having one driver in the race here tonight, that being the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr. We didn't see him lay down a lap time, so I assume he's going to be taking on the off-track admin duties here this evening, and might actually have a lot to look at here tonight, because at the short tracks, a lot of people don't really care for short track racing, but I think the best thing about it is there's always something going on. There's always a battle happening. It's a conveyor belt of race cars.
Also going to keep an eye out, as it looks like starting all the way in the back, a driver we haven't seen that often here in the last couple of races, Nick Radar, is back. And I think the most notable thing I can remember from Nick Radar's racing is he's used to being caught up in wrecks, but also just remembering Bristol when he just became a torpedo and destroying some cars. We'll see if he's learned from those incidences and learned that his brake can work.
Well, not only that, but let's look at what happened in qualifying. A lot of those guys that were running really well in practice were not able to lay down the same lap times in qualifying, so USA International kind of fooling them there. Nick Radar didn't lay down a single lap time here in practice or qualifying, so he's kind of getting into this 150-lapper cold turkey.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting to see. Like we said, practice was in the middle of the day. The track temp was almost 95 degrees, hot, slick. For this qualifying, it was 80 degrees track temp. Here at the start of the race, 80 degrees as well for the track temp. 79 is going to be the outside temp.
Well, the nighttime is the right time for short track racing as you look at your starting lineup. And the beauty of iRacing is tracks that no longer exist, they're able to be put here into this sim. USA International was actually demolished back in early 2012. A warehouse now sits there, but a great racetrack back in its day when it was opened in 1995. And it's so cool that these drivers are able to take to it here tonight for the 9th race of the season.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't usually race here on this course during the asphalt racing, but I usually do the dirt racing on this course, and it's always a blast just how different of a short track this course is. Like I said, the straightaways are deceptively long, so it allows these drivers to really push it into these corners and these hard braking zones. This is your opportunity to make some passes and also capitalize on someone else going in just a little bit too deep.
Yeah, you called this before we started Martinsville, but with more banking, so no doubt we're going to see the bump and run come into play. We're going to see the classic door banging and rubbing for position. It's going to be a classic short track race. As being a short track, we will have these 2 pacing laps, so what do you think here? Do we see the aggressiveness early on, or do we see drivers kind of mind their manners, a little bit more give and take, realizing not only the fact that it's 150 laps here in this one, but you don't have the faster pair to lean on either?
I think since we have so many fast drivers that we're used to seeing up front, starting further back in the field, the aggression level is going to start off on extreme highs, as everyone's going to be at the closest they're going to be all race long. Might as well try to gain some positions quick.
The last 2 races this season were won by Shane Tyrion. He's not in the field tonight. We've got a number of former winners up here towards the front, and Jeff Greenbow, Brady, and Gerald Campbell, but you've got Seth Harrelson, Cooper Johnson, and Jake Hounshell. They're looking for their first wins of the year, as Harrelson and Johnson going to lead them down, and the USA 150 powered by Fade Grips is green.
Seth Orlson getting a great launch for himself. Johnson just was not prepared, which is now giving an opening here for Jake Hounshell to make the pass for 2nd place, as everyone else side-by-side racing for 5th place.
It's going to be interesting to watch just what type of passes are going to take place here as well, because obviously the shorter...
Oh no, Bo Brady already spun around. There goes also Green, as well as Campbell and others, and they're all stacking up behind him.
The whole track is blocked over in turn 4. That was a wreck that started up inside of the top 5, and then everybody else on back was either scattering to avoid or trying to get on the brakes.
Yeah, and Campbell and Green having more contact, as well as Campbell and look like Brady, and so many drivers are now going to be questioning how much damage did they really take, because some of those contacts were drivers going pretty slow. But if you hit some of these tires, it really can hurt the suspension and overall ruin a day.
Definitely can, and of course, as we mentioned, there are no fast repairs. The one saving grace there might possibly be is at a short track, you don't necessarily have to have the prettiest car to be still in contention. So we'll see as we look back at the replay just what types of hits and just how hard the impact was for some of these drivers that, as I mentioned, were up inside of the top 5 when this incident occurred.
I think the driver that might have gotten the worst out of all of that could have been Randy Kokine. I know also Bo Brady got a lot of front end damage as well as being moved around. I mean, also got to keep an eye out on Blaine Atkins. He used that bumper a lot because he could not slow down in time with Campbell and Green being jacked up because of them making contact with Bo Brady. So this is going to be interesting how many cars come into the pits and try to get repairs done and make sure they stay on the lead lap.
You talk about the damage on Bo Brady. I think if we look here at this next replay, the car that's going to get him is the 84 of Peyton Hill. Oh, actually, no. Peyton Hill and the 71 of Kevin Ruff actually avoided him. They actually got up into the outside wall trying to avoid him, so they got some pretty extensive right side damage despite making no contact with the back end of the 20 machine.
One driver that did come into the pits this time is just going to be James Roth in the 4. Going to be getting a little bit of fuel and getting back out there on track as the rest of the drivers. They wait to see when pit road will open up and if anyone will come in and try to get repairs done.
We're going to just show how difficult it is when the track gets blocked up in a corner to be able to make your way through. We're riding on board with the 19 of Randy Kokine. There you see the smoke up ahead. You got to figure out where they aren't, and unfortunately for Kokine, he was actually the one that got the front of Bo Brady there. A lot of extensive contact to the right front of his machine.
And looks like nobody going to be taking any type of coming in to get repairs done. They're sticking with what they've got. Pace car lights are off. We're going this time by.
Seth Harrelson will be leading us back to green. It appears like we may be doing single file restarts here tonight, as Harrelson's going to go right up there against the outside wall, make sure that nobody gets a jump on him when he brings them back to the green. Hounshell in second, Cooper Johnson third, then it's Hank Steinmiller and Blaine Atkins as we're back underway on lap number 6.
Yeah, immediately on these single file starts, I went back to go see how Blaine Atkins was going to attack this corner. He kind of got stuck and jammed up, was not able to utilize his kind of vintage passing that he usually does. Everyone's staying pretty single file up front, as it's going to be our top 7 just pulling away from the rest of the field.
We're going to have to see how the racing is from here on out now, because that wreck that happened up at the front of the field, we could clearly see was a case of Bo Brady thinking he was clear on Jeff Green and kind of chopped down on the nose of the 2. And that's going to be an issue here tonight, I think. Drivers fighting for the same piece of real estate, because even though this is kind of a 3, maybe 4 groove track in the corners, it really congests up when they come off the corners onto the straightaway.
Blaine Atkins able to already make 2 passes up to 3rd place, getting himself Cooper Johnson out of the way, as well as Steinmiller. And the driver that got hurt the most was going to be Cooper Johnson, stuck on the high side, losing 2 positions with 14 machine, back to 6th place. But now we're seeing a lot of our front runners staying single file, but a lot of the cars that look like they're about to be battling it hard, that's going to be around that 12th and 11th position. We're going to be seeing some cars side by side.
Aiden Thur just made a pass there. Now Kyle Johnson trying to do the same. That'll drop Shane Lake from 12th back to 14th. A driver that we just saw was on the move is the 33 of John Whitendorf. He just moved into the top 10, and let's not forget, Gerald Campbell was involved in that first wreck. He's all the way back in 20th. That's points that John Whitendorf is continuing to gain on the 25 as Blaine Atkins. That's a rocket ship. He just got around Hounshell for the 2nd spot.
One of our favorites to be possibly could have won this race. That's going to be Jeff Green. He was trying to enter pit road, ran right into the water barrels, and his day could be done.
Randy Kokine is also on pit road in the 19 car as As you mentioned, Jeff Green sits in his pit stall, and that may be his evening over. Tough break there for our Bristol winner, another of the short tracks we ran this season. Good battle going on back here. That's where we find Jason Hounshow. He looks back in his rearview mirror. Outside pole sitter Cooper Johnson starts to close in. And that 84 of Peyton Hill, despite pancaking the right side of his machine, still seems to be competitive in that NOS Chevrolet.
Yeah, and that's probably the best thing that could have done was him pancaking the wall instead of hitting it at an angle where it really would have done a lot more damage. So this 84 machine going to continue doing what he's been doing since he joined. His caution in the back. As looking to see where it is. That's Bo Brady once again, I believe.
AJ DeMarzo.
Campbell. Yeah.
I'm not sure if Campbell was involved or not. The 5 definitely spun out there in turn 2. May have slid up and made contact with the 25 of Campbell.
Campbell was able to stop, luckily. But looks like this 5 got spun around by the 7 of Jackson McLaren.
That was a battle at the time around the 19th position. As McLaren's going to get a run here on the front straightaway. Peaks down to the inside all the way to turn 1. And, oh boy, that one even looked closer than what we saw earlier with Brady and Jeff Green. It almost looked like the 5 was clear on the 7, but just barely wasn't.
Yeah, and then that's one of the things of chopping someone's nose, is if you come down, when you think that you're okay to come down, you could be seeing somebody really just not giving you an inch. And right there, McLaren kind of got fed up with the way that the contact was, hurting themselves. And incidents going on during pit lane. Gerald Campbell and also Bo Brady making contact while getting into their pit stalls.
This has not been a good night for either one of those former winners, as we're actually going to go on board with the 25 of Gerald Campbell, taking another look at this incident over in turn 2. And as you can see, Campbell's able to get on the brakes just quickly enough to avoid the 5 of DeMarzo. As soon as he refires the car, Campbell able to leave the scene of the accident as well. And you got to know that the 1 or 2 drivers that are smiling through all of this, the hardship of Gerald Campbell, are the 63 of Hank Steinmiller and the 33 of John Whitendorf. The only thing is, though, this race ain't over. Those 2 guys aren't out of the woods yet. They could still have problems here tonight at USA.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen about 5 drivers in just the first 15 laps already having the worst days possible. It's going to be Caden Thor and the 57 pulling that machine into the pits, getting some fuel and getting back out there. Officially, Jeff Green has DNF'd from this race. Randy Kokean earlier did blow his engine trying to get that repairs done.
Jeff Green came into this race in the 5th position in the standings, and so he will undoubtedly free fall a couple of spots, might lose some spots to Jason Hounshow, Bo Brady, and Kyle Johnson. They were within striking distance to maybe move up inside of the top 5, so we're still waiting for the lights to go out atop of this pace truck. And I have to think that Seth Harrelson doesn't mind seeing these caution flags come out, because one less lap he has to defend that race lead under green flag conditions. The one issue, though, is Blaine Atkins been able to cut his way all the way up to 2nd, and at the pace he's setting right now, I'm not sure there's anything Harrelson can do to keep him in his rearview mirror when we go back green.
No, right now, the speed that we are seeing from this 05 of Blaine Atkins, it's looking very reminiscent of his win back at Richmond, where he's got so much faster than the rest of the field. I don't think there's anyone that can really touch him. And if he can get up front, we stay in a long green flag run, we can see this 05 machine pulling away and almost lapping everyone, as he's almost a full 10th faster than everyone else.
Well, so far this season, we've only had 2 multi-time winners, Gerald Campbell being one, Shane Tyrion, of course, being the other. Blaine Atkins would love to join that list with his 2nd trip to victory lane. As we are going back green, we're working our 2nd caution, closing in on lap 20. Harrelson the leader, Atkins now up to 2nd. Jake Hounshow 3rd. Hank Steinmiller is 4th with Anthony Guarneri in the 5th position. Then it's Jason Hounshow, Cooper Johnson, Peyton Hill, John Whitendorf, and James Goshen. That's going to be your top 10 when we go back green for what looks like this time is going to be a double file restart.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because there was such a quick caution that they tried the single file restart, seeing if that's going to work. We had a little bit of green flag run, so we'll try double file once again, as Seth Harrelson brings us to the green flag once again as we're at the start of lap 18.
We'll see how aggressive Blaine Atkins is going to be, being on that outside line, trying to see if he can use the 2nd groove. Nope, he's not going to be able to make the move there. He gets clear of the 07, now crosses him over out of turn 2, and now Harrelson starting to blink a little bit. That's not good if Blaine Atkins trying to make a pass, having that car disappear and reappear.
Yeah, that might be a blessing in disguise for Seth Arlson, really making Blaine have to back off and not really sure where the 07 was. And now trying to set his sights once again to try to make a pass. Drivers that are slowly trying to make moves forward, that's going to be John Weitendorf. He's able to get by Peyton Hill up to 8th place.
And I made a mistake. I thought that Christopher Morse Jr. was not in the race, but he just did not lay down a lap time. He's currently in that 12th position. The AC Delco Chevrolet, they're up ahead of him. Weitendorf making another pass. That is going to be for the 7th position as, little contact between himself and Cooper Johnson. Johnson doing the gentlemanly thing, backing off, letting Weitendorf gather it up. Tremendous save by the 33. And now we're 3 wide into 3.
And then behind them, they're 3 wide as well as Campbell gets thrown up into the wall, but they're still 3 wide, and Weitendorf got to back out of that. Now he's going to be dropping back to 9th place as Blaine Atkin has made the pass and now pulling away from Seth Harlson.
That was the 2 DuPont machines that got together there. The 71 of Kevin Ruff pushed up into Gerald Campbell. Campbell now drops back outside of the top 15 yet again. Now actually is battling for the 14th position with Bo Brady. As side-by-side battle here, that is Peyton Hill on the top side, John Weitendorf on the inside, 7th place under contest, Christopher Morse Jr. there as well.
Yeah, Christopher Morse Jr. coming into this race was one of the heavy favorites to win this thing, but with not putting a lap time down, it's now put this 3 machine into a much more treacherous position, but so far keeping it clean for the 3 as he's up to 9th place and able to now make a charge after he's made the pass on Peyton Hill.
Well, Blaine Atkin may be out in front, but just saw him brush
Jackson
the wall.
McLaren just went around, and he's continuing to spin on the front stretch.
He's going to try and get the thing righted. Oh, he's facing up against the wall.
No.
Where's the 0-5?
Comes our leaders.
He's coming off of 4. Oh, he's going to get it going. He's going to leave the top side open here. So fortunately, McLaren is going to get out of the way. Caution will not have to be thrown, but a close one there on the front straightaway. Battle for second. Houndshell to the inside of Harlson.
Yeah, and Houndshell starting to make his move as it looks like Harlson might not really feel comfortable at the moment with his machine as he's going to lose another position. But it's looking like those drivers that did not have the best qualifying times, they're finally starting to get a rhythm and starting to move forward.
Now it looks like the top 5, 6, 7 or so, they're going to get themselves all organized out. The big battling is going on back here around the points leader, Gerald Campbell, actually just a little bit behind him. You got Caden Thur, AJ DeMarzo, Nick Radar, Shane Lake, James Goshen, and David White. That's 6 drivers battling for a spot inside of the top 15.
Yeah, and with how quick we're putting lap times down, they're about 9 seconds back and losing even more time back from our leaders. And if they make any type of contact and find themselves sideways, our leaders could easily catch up to them.
Mentioned Jeff Green out of the race. Randy Koking still sits on pit road, and Jackson McLaren brought his number 7 to pit lane a couple of laps ago. So it'll be very difficult for those drivers to get their laps back since it is a short track. It's Cooper Johnson making a move here to the inside of Peyton Hill. He'll take the spot. Behind them, Bo Brady and Gerald Campbell, who were involved in early incidents, trying to work their way back up to the front. Currently in a battle here for the 12th position, and then Campbell had to back off and nearly got run into by Kevin Ruff.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing is if you make one simple mistake where you have to back off, the other machines behind you most likely aren't. They're still full throttle, and they're going to close up and almost run into each other just like we saw there. And Campbell, you could sense that there's some frustration with this 25 machine. He wants to be up front, but that early contact and damage, it is hurting the 25 way more than what we expected.
And there was some pretty good damage to the right front of Kevin Ruff there when he got into the left rear quarter panel of Gerald Campbell. We're going to have to see how that affects him for the rest of this race. It's kind of seeing some sparks starting to come out from underneath that 71 machine. A little bit further up at the front, got a good battle going on for 4th position. Hank Steinmiller looks back and sees that Steve Park throwback of Anthony Guarneri.
Yeah, Anthony Guarneri trying to find himself a possible win, as that's going to be Jackson McLaren. I believe that is completely stopped and now is going to teleport himself to pit road, which threw off all the drivers a little bit there. They wanted to make sure they did not run into the 7, and Jackson McLaren has DNF'd it for the day.
Now, one thing
yellow flag! Nick Radar!
That's on the front straightaway, just coming off of turn 4. So the 29 will bring out the 3rd caution of the evening here, and I was just going to mention the fact it wasn't looking like Blaine Atkin was really pulling away, and that may have been more so his choice than anything else, trying to maybe preserve his tires, as we'll go back and see what happened to Nick Radar off the final corner.
Yeah, looking like Nick might have gotten a little bit too low on the apron coming off the corner, and away his car goes.
And one thing that we haven't talked about tonight that is very much so a thing is paint grip. That yellow line painted down there separating the banking from the racetrack. You get the left sides down on there, and sometimes that left rear is not going to stick. And it's going to spin that car around. Fortunately, that was back in that area of 6 cars that we looked at earlier. Fortunately, nobody else involved, and also fortunate that that wasn't anywhere near where our leaders were approaching. They had about another couple of corners before they got up to that group. Otherwise, that could have been rather catastrophic.
Yeah, it could have been extremely bad for those drivers as coming into the pits, looks like from 18th on back coming in is Kaden Thor, James Roth, AJ DiMarzio, as well as Nick Radar, all coming into the pits. You also could throw Nick Koking into the mix of drivers coming in.
Now, a couple of drivers that were on pit road earlier on in this race, this was back on laps 17 and 19 respectively, were Bo Brady and Gerald Campbell, but they did not take fast repairs. They ended up just doing manual damage completion, and so therefore they still have well, actually, my apologies. There is no fast repair, so that doesn't make any sense. But they did have to spend some time on pit road there getting that damage repaired, but they've done a good job recovering currently to 12th and 13th place. So, like I said, you don't exactly have to have the prettiest car to win this race, especially with the fact that this track doesn't have the longest of straightaways, and usually the engine, you need it for those long straightaways. If your car handles well enough, you can make enough speed up in the corners.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like here on the first starts of these restarts, it's Bo Brady as well as Gerald Campbell looking a little bit off. But the longer the run was going on, the more we were starting to see that the times were pretty similar from Blaine Atkin compared to Bo Brady and Gerald Campbell. So speed-wise, they look like they're still good, but you also threw out the idea of maybe Blaine Atkin wasn't pushing as hard as he possibly could have been pushing.
Yeah, because I was noticing just before that caution came out, he was only about 5 car lengths ahead of Jake Hounshell, and with the way we saw him cut his way through the field to get up to the race lead, we know he's got a car that could have easily been 10, maybe 15 car lengths ahead if he had decided to push it. I think he was backing it off, kind of managing the gap and managing his tires, because there's no doubt about it here tonight with the track and that tightness that they're going to feel off the corner. That right front is taking a beating.
Yeah, and these drivers really got to be careful as they only have 2 tire sets in pit road. So a lot of them are thinking about pushing it to the halfway marker and then come in for tires. But we'll see how these drivers want to react to only having, like we said, 2 sets of tires in pit road. You know, a lot of the drivers up front, their goal is to make sure they've got an extra set just in case they need to make a run in the final 30 laps.
Lights out atop the pace cars. We're a little more than a fifth of the way through this race. 21 drivers still running. Actually, now make that 22. 21 of them on the lead lap as Randy Koking has returned back to the racetrack. Jackson McLaren and Jeff Green, just to update again, those are the only 2 drivers that are currently out of this race. As Blaine Atkin and Jake Hounshell, they're going to be your front row when we go back green. Pole sitter Seth Harrelson and Hank Steinmiller in row 2, and they'll be followed by Jason Hounshell and Anthony Guarneri in row 3. So Blaine Atkin, we'll see how hard he's going to push it here, how much of a gap he's going to try and open up over Jake Hounshell, or first time we've seen Hounshell up in second place, is he going to have anything for Atkin for the race lead?
Blaine Atkin already gone into the high side with over a 2-car length lead and starting to just pull away as the next side-by-side action is going to be back for 4th place.
And you got to wonder here, these drivers have been out there for 37 laps now on these tires, and they're not going to grip nearly as much on that inside line now as they did in the first couple of laps. So you got to wonder just how tight a sensation they're feeling coming off the corner with a car to their outside.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be extremely difficult for these drivers the longer the run goes on because of that tight sensation. I think especially here, probably in the next 20 laps or so, we're going to be seeing a lot of drivers just struggling to try to make any moves. But right now, got to give credit to Steinmiller. He's still holding strong on the outside.
He is indeed, although he is going to lose the spot to Anthony Guarneri, drop back to 5th. He'll try and tuck in line in front of Kyle Johnson. Looks like he is clear, but I thought earlier on when we had our second caution that the driver was clear. He is finally clear for that spot, and Anthony Guarneri is going to make a move here on Seth Harrelson, but I'm not necessarily certain he
Yellow
wanted
in the back.
to go.
As it looks like there might have been just a caution thrown, as I'm trying to figure out who the driver is that brought this one out.
Yeah, there's nobody that has lost touch with the field towards the rear end of the pack. Looking at David White and James Roth, AJ DeMarzo, so that may have been possibly
Oh, it was
an
Peyton
additional
Hill.
caution.
Peyton Hill got completely 45 degrees sideways, excuse me. And then him and Ruff making contact, and I believe that is what brought out our caution here.
We'll take a look here. As yes, you are exactly right. Fortunately, though, he was able to get the thing right and actually didn't lose too much in terms of track position. I'm actually not sure he lost any track position. He may have just lost that one spot to the 71 as we'll look at the replay here down the back straightaway.
An absolutely incredible save by this 84 machine, and I don't think anyone else possibly could have been saving that thing. It was completely sideways and did not hit the wall or anything.
That's the sign of a guy that's driven some dirt tracks. You saw those front wheels immediately turn to the right to counter steer that spinning race car.
And the fact that he did not overcorrect it is what's most incredible. Most drivers, you can get it kind of straight and then they'll overturn it and their car will immediately slingshot into the outside wall. But luckily, Peyton Hill able to save it, get the thing straightened out, and save, like I said, only losing one position, still back in 14th place.
I want to touch back on a point that you made, though, about the two sets of Goodyears that they have down there in the pit stalls. And with a slide like that, that is going to wear those tires down quite a bit. So does Peyton Hill come down pit road and have to take on one of those sets right now, or are they not worn down enough that he is going to be forced to have to come down pit lane?
I don't think they're worn down enough. I think they still can wait it out and don't need to push yourself too much. Now a driver coming to the pits for fuel, that's going to be Hank Steinmiller, and then another driver that came in is going to be the 4 once again, James Roth. But I think the drivers to watch out for, the first that we've been seeing all season long to come in and take tires, has always been Kyle Johnson and Bo Brady. They seem to always come in about 30 laps before everyone else just to try to get the advantage of fresher tires, and then they use another set later on to counteract everyone else's first pit stop. So that's going to be something that we got to keep our eye on of when do we see Kyle Johnson or Bo Brady come in for tires earlier than everyone else.
Yeah, that strategy you're talking about, though, normally is at the mile or mile and a half tracks, usually the bigger tracks. I'm kind of questioning the strategy of Hank Steinmiller. I understand him coming down pit road for fuel to be off sequence with everybody else. I mean, being at a short track, maybe he'd be able to make it the rest of the way on what he's got in the tank. But he's running the risk of being back in traffic. I mean, we saw the first caution of the evening take place up inside of the top 5, and everybody from there on back having to scatter to avoid. Now Hank Steinmiller's kind of put himself back in that hornet's nest when he was up inside of the top 5 with a clean race car.
Yeah, and this is going to be something that, I mean, it's a risk you got to take. I mean, right now Steinmiller's probably thinking, hey, I got a shot to catch up to Campbell, but Campbell, he's starting to run his way back up front into the top 10, so maybe I need to make a risky move, try to gain more points than that 25 machine, as well as trying to beat out Whitendorf. And both those drivers of Steinmiller and Whitendorf both still haven't gotten a win yet this season, and they're both trying to figure out how to get that win as the Peace Truck lights are off. We're going this time.
Yeah, both Bo Brady and Gerald Campbell have done a great job since getting involved in a wreck back in the first, I think it was the first 2 laps of this race. They are now up at 10th and 11th place for this restart. As Blaine Atkin getting ready to get us back under the green flag. He'll have Jay Counship to his outside, but he's been really good on restarts, as we know. And again, he's going to clear the 0-2 before they even get to the start-finish line. Yeah,
what's interesting with how quick we're seeing Blaine Atkin just take off on these restarts, you'd think that maybe you just take the outside. His car's still trying to have issues. Contact made, caution out.
That was the 0 of Jason Hounshell, and he just never found any grip going into turn 1. He was all the way up in the 4th groove.
He just kept on drifting. He overcorrected a little bit and tapped the rear bumper a little bit into the outside wall, but luckily not too much damage to the 00.
Boy, that lost him so much track position, though. I believe he was 6th on that restart, as we'll take a look again at what happened. And oh, that's a tough break there, because as we said at the top of the program, track position, very important at these short tracks, and it almost looks like he might have gotten on the brakes carrying so much speed in that he thought he was going to get into the back of the 16 of Guarneri, perhaps.
Possibly. It just looked like maybe that back end just kicked out and really had no way of saving it. Almost had it saved and then looped it back around, and like I said, luckily did not hit the wall more than he initially did.
So that drops The double zero of Houndshell all the way back to, it looks like, the 12th position is where he was at the time of the caution. He does not drop all the way back to around 20th, where we saw him scored before we went back to look at that replay. There you see Randy Koking going around. He's going to get one of his laps back as the free pass machine, currently 20 laps down to the leaders. AJ DeMarzo on pit road in the 5 machine. Looks like he might have been getting a little bit of damage repair done there. So still 22 drivers running, 21 of them currently on the lead lap. And if you're Blaine Atkin in that 0-5 now, I kind of speculated about Seth Harrelson earlier on when he was leading this race, but if you're Blaine Atkin, which do you want? Do you want to see these cautions and lead these laps under pacing, or do you want to see this thing go green so you can start opening up a gap?
I think the biggest thing is he wants this thing to go green, because then he can finally get into a rhythm and start pulling away, and that's something that just short track drivers like to get into, is that rhythm. And every single time a caution comes out, you have to resync and try to get into a better setup here. And we're starting to see a lot of drivers coming into the pits, and some drivers taking some fuel and also getting some damage repair done for the 84, the 4, and as well the double zero.
Well, folks, you're watching the 9th race of the season for the G-Force Grand National Series here at USA International, the USA 150 powered by Fade Grip. So far, only 2 drivers have led laps here tonight, pole sitter Seth Harrelson and current race leader Blaine Atkin. We're working our 5th caution of the evening, and we're just a tick away from getting this race 1/3 of the way complete. So we've seen a lot of aggressive racing here early on, Sam, but we're not even into the second half. So this is seeming to send a very interesting tone for what we're going to see when we get down to the nitty-gritty in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is the fact that most of these cautions that have come out is due to the fact that some drivers just aren't used to other drivers' braking zones. I mean, it's been a lot of drivers running into one another and picking up the driver in front of them's rear end and just spinning them around. So I think it's got to be a lot more patience for some of these machines, but also recognizing, hey, if you got a driver that's faster than you, you might want to just get out of the way for them.
Obviously, there's still a lot of racing to go in this one. There's still 3 more races left on the schedule. So the championship could certainly still be decided from here till then. And if we're looking at the 4 drivers right now that are in the hunt for that championship mathematically, restarting back in 10th is the points leader Gerald Campbell. Second in points, John Whitendorf is currently in 6th. Third in standings, Hank Steinmiller, after making a pit stop on the last caution, back in 17th. And fourth in points, Jane Houndshell right now in the runner-up position as Blaine Atkin gets us back underway. A single file restart this time, and he's going to have, 7, 8 car lengths before they get to turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, Blaine Atkin on these restarts are just, it's going right when you can go, and no one else is kind of being prepared for that. I think everyone else is kind of setting up just in case we start to see that possibly that 0-5 would change up his strategies here, but really keeping it strong. And a driver that's fading back even more, that's going to be Cooper Johnson, as, caution's out. That's Nick Radar.
29 teleporting to pit road to get out of harm's way. Not sure where that spin might have taken place. Maybe the back straightaway based on where the race leaders were. We'll find out here with the replay.
Word is that Nick Radar's steering wheel might have actually disconnected, and that's what hurt the 29 machine.
Yeah, it has all the looks of an issue like that as it spins around there on the back straightaway, and that was right in front of, I believe, the 57 of Caden Thor. So nice job by him and a couple of others to avoid that 29, not knowing which direction he was necessarily going to spin.
Yeah, and I think it's right now after the 29's incident, and he has done it. He parked it for the day. Now, not sure what's wrong with the steering wheel, but he's going to have to figure it out and get back out there. Talked about Kyle Johnson. He was pit about 30 laps earlier than everyone else. He just came in for the 88 machine, got some tires, back out there on track.
Kyle Johnson giving up, I believe that was the 6th position to come down pit road. He, a lot like Hank Steinmiller, giving up a spot inside of the top 10. Come down pit lane and take on one of those sets of Goodyear tires. So, another caution, another opportunity for these drivers to kind of think about strategy. Are you surprised we didn't see any other drivers come down pit lane, just based on the fact that Oh, there is the possibility that they could split this race into thirds. Come down here around lap 50, take on that first set of tires, and if we end up having a caution around lap 100, come down, take that final set of tires for the 50-lap sprint to the end.
No, I think if anything, I think this might push your strategy out even a little bit further, trying to make these tires stretch out. I mean, you haven't really ran too many laps green, so these tires are still workable and can be out there probably about 20 laps further than you thought initially. So most of these drivers we thought were going to probably split this race in half. We might see them try to push it to possibly out to 90 laps, 95 laps on these tires if we continue to have these yellows almost lap after lap.
Yeah, it could possibly, at least especially for these race leaders, be that they'll only take on one set of tires here tonight, because I very much doubt if we had a late race yellow that they would give up all that track position to come down and take on that final set for the fresh rubber.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at at Bristol as well as at Phoenix. We've seen drivers go back and try to take tires later on and be caught up in so much lap traffic that it's so difficult to make any passes that actually puts them in trouble. And Kyle Johnson, as well as seeing Hank Steinmiller, they're making that choice. I'm going to pit in the back, try to make my different strategies with Steinmiller going with only fuel and also seeing Johnson going in with tires. So now putting these strategies out of, do you want to try to stretch these tires out all the way to the end, or is fresh rubber the way to go?
Well, only 2 drivers remain in the field here to try and be a multi-time winner at a short track this season. That being Blaine Akin, who won at Richmond, and Bo Brady, who won at Phoenix. Jacob Putman, who won the season opener at Nashville, is not in the field tonight, and Jeff Green, who won at Bristol, has DNF'd in the 24th position. So Blaine Akin, as stated, it doesn't look like he is going to be able to get himself into the championship battle, but as you alluded to, Sam, there's so many drivers in the field here tonight, they're not even thinking about championship now since it's kind of out of their reach. They're just wanting to find victory lane in these final 4 races of the season.
Yeah, I mean, as pace truck lights are off, we're going this time by. But, I mean, you got to think Hank Steinmiller, Jake Hauschel, they're still hunting for a championship, and they're in 3rd and 4th in points, but they also had extremely bad luck at the start of the season. Gerald Campbell was the one with all the luck for the first 6 races of the season. Bad luck has been hitting them time after time.
Well, right now, Campbell's up to the 8th position, though. There you see him in the back of that shot, as John Whitendorf, for a brief moment, looked like he was going to go for the 4th spot on Anthony Guarneri. Instead, rides in line behind Guarneri, who now rides in the tire tracks as well of Seth Harrelson. If we're looking for a battle, we got to drop back just inside of the top 10. That's where James Goshen starting to close up on the back bumper of Cooper Johnson, who we really haven't talked a whole lot about since the start of this race when he started on the outside of the front row. He's just been quietly running at the back end of the top 10 now.
Yeah, Cooper Johnson has been wanting to stay in the top 5, but every once in a while he'll find himself up there and then get pushed up to the high side, losing about 3 to 4 positions. And now he's kind of found that snug position where Cooper Johnson can just run here, not really in any feeling of loss of position. Goshen, yes, looking quick for a good day today, but not looking fast enough to pass this 14 car just yet.
Watching the 63 of Hank Steinmiller on fresher tires. He's now up to the 13th position, trying to close in on Caden Thur, and I wanted to look as he has finally cleared Shane
Oh, they're
Lake.
wrecking in the back. That's going to be Peyton Hill wrecking in the 84 after contact between the 5. Actually, that was the 83, and I believe someone else. Hill able to get his car straight as the leaders are coming on by.
Jake Hounshaw there in the 00 going around. The last car running on the racetrack, and then we'll see where the leaders are as the 84 is on the back straightaway. There's the leaders coming off of turn 2. So very fortunate he got that car refired when he did, or else there may have had to have been a caution that would have come out. And I'm a little surprised he was able to get that car refired because he was down in the grass on the front straightaway.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the racing from Kyle Johnson, the back half of the field with those fresher tires. He went 3 wide with David White as well with Peyton Hill, and it just did not work out for Hill in that manner. He was stuck on the high side, got spun around, and now back in 19th place, and soon to be having to worry about as he's about to be put a lap down.
Anthony Guarneri and Seth Harrelson will go side by side for third. Great save back there by Bo Brady. He was slideways off of turn 4.
Yeah, Bo Brady, he's going to be pushing as well as Campbell. They're up to 7th and 8th. They've been just a duo cutting their way through traffic. As now Weitendorf feeling the pressure. He's now trying to get himself under Harrelson. Not able to do it just yet as Harrelson giving up space. Here comes the 33 to the inside.
07 just could not hook the bottom through 3 and 4, opening up the door, but Weitendorf not able to stick his foot in. Now Chris
Yellow in the back
Jr.
again. Kyle Johnson spun around and engine is blown for the 88 machine.
And that's the 88 who had just been to pit road for fresh tires as Kyle Johnson in that Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet. His day is done.
I got to take a different look, but it looks like he might have hit a divot on the apron that shot him up the track. And Shane Lake, nowhere to go and getting a piece of that 88 machine.
Take a look at it here into 3. And, oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think there was just a little bit of an area where the apron of the racetrack dipped down, and it really unsettled that race car.
And that's just the risk of running down there close to the apron. The apron is not your friend all the time. And the difference of a flat apron compared to the banking of the racetrack is what really hurt the 88 there.
Let's see if we can get a better look at it here around the left front. And there it is right there. You know what? I almost wonder if maybe he got that paint grip. It almost looked like the car was starting to come around on him. He tried to correct it back up, and that's what shot him back up into Shane Lake.
Yeah, I mean, he just got too low, and that's what hurt the 88 machine as all the drivers from about 7th on back coming into the pits. Our leader, Blaine Atkin, also a part of those drivers that came in. Now our new leader going to be Anthony Carneri in the 16.
This is a little bit before the halfway mark for these drivers, but many of them probably thinking that they won't see a caution between now and lap 75, taking the opportunity here to get the tires under yellow. Carlson was in, Hounshell, Atkin, Whitendorf, Chris Morse Jr., a lot of drivers we have inside the top 5 and top 10. But with Guarneri now out in front in that 16 machine, I believe this is going to be the second race that he has led. He led 14 laps earlier on this year in an earlier race, and now for the second time in his career, he's going to be out in front in a Grand National Series race.
I'm going to keep my eye out for the 5th and 6th position. That's going to be James Roth and David White. Both these drivers haven't really been up front most of this race. They've been in the back half of the field. We'll see with them up front how they're going to be able to hold their position or how quick they fade back.
4 in the 83. Currently now up inside of the top 6, 5th and 6th on this restart. And the caution, I think, helped one driver in particular, and that's Hank Steinmiller, because when everybody else came down pit road, he'd been down there earlier. He stays out. He's going to be lined up in 4th on this restart.
Yeah, the last time Steinmiller was in the pits was just for fuel. So we'll see if the 63 machine, well, he can hold up to everyone else, but everyone that's up front, they're on much older tires than the rest of the field. I think James Roth of our front 6 with the freshest of tires, 20 laps on those tires. Everyone else, they're got to be questioning, do we get a quick caution or do we hope this thing goes green a little bit longer?
I believe the driver that got the free pass under this yellow was the 71 of Kevin Ruff. He was 3 laps down at the time, so he'll get one of those laps back. He'll be -2 when we go back green. The top 10 is completely shuffled up now with drivers that came to pit road and drivers that stayed out. It'll be Anthony Guarneri, the race leader. Gerald Campbell now up to 2nd. That's the highest he's run all night long up to this point. Cooper Johnson 3rd. Hank Steinmiller 4th. James Roth in 5th. And then it'll be David White, Blaine Atkin, Jake Hounshell, Seth Harlson, and John Whitendorf, the top 10. Now, you talk about Roth and White back there, not really used to being up in this situation. Blaine Atkin, the question is, how aggressive is he going to be in trying to cut his way through these drivers up ahead that he knows have older tires than he does?
They're going to be on older tires. Got to watch out for wheel spin here on this restart for our front 2. How well can they get through the gears, and will they be spinning their tires? Pace truck is off. We're going green up front as the driver is getting ready for lap number 70.
Neri's going to clear Gerald Campbell going into 1. Campbell almost got a little tap from behind by Cooper Johnson, who now is under fire from Hank Steinmiller. And look it up, way up high there is David White trying to get out of the way of traffic. Here comes Blaine Atkin on the 4.
Yeah, Blaine Atkin get under the 4 on the apron, and there goes Roth as contact with Seth Harlson and the rest of the field trying to avoid the 4.
Caden Thor spinning around there in turn 4 down towards the infield grass. I'm not really sure how Blaine Atkin thought that was going to work. You could clearly see the front tires were smoking as he was hard on the brakes going into 3.
Also looked like Shane Lake, who was trying to back off and slow down maybe, got absolutely ran over by Ruff in the 71, and Coking ran into Lake, which is bizarre because Lake should not have ran into a stopped 81 machine.
Take a look at what happened here. We kind of saw it on the back end of our camera shot live, and Blaine Akin just drives it in deep, almost to the apron. There's just no way that's going to work. Granted, Roth didn't give him a whole lot of real estate to work with, but one thing at these short tracks too, if you're going to make a move on somebody, it's better to kind of indicate to them you're going to make it earlier rather than later, because late moves like that catches another driver by surprise, and you're not always going to get the room you need to be able to make the pass.
Yeah, and I think really in the mindset of Blaine Atkin, he's like, hey, I'm on the fresher tire, so just get out of my way. When everyone else is thinking, hey, this is my position. I'm not just going to hand this over. And obviously that is what brought out the carnage there. And vocally, I believe a lot of the drivers are upset from the back half incident.
Yeah, it was actually the 71 of Kevin Ruff that got into the back of Shane Lake, spinning him around, and then the contact with himself and Randy Koking afterwards. That was the follow-up wreck with everybody trying to get on the brakes and avoid the spinning four of James Roth further up. And the thing about it, Sam, is that's not the last we've seen of this type of racing here tonight, that type of congestion, because it's just going to continue on here, especially if we continue to have these restarts getting closer and closer to the end.
Yeah, and especially with the double file restarts, cars are still going to be battling side by side, and then you got drivers with fresher tires that are going to be going 3 wide if they can. And the most difficult thing there was the fact that David White was trying to get out of the way, so it looked like the whole entire back half of the field was 3 wide constantly, and that's just because the 83 was trying to get out of the way. But up front, I'm very nervous just based on how Roth got moved out of the way. You could be the next car of our front four.
And think about it too, short tracks breed short tempers, so a lot of the contact we're seeing here in the first half of the race, there's no telling if it may not come back to light in the second half of this race, perhaps.
Oh yeah, I mean, most of these drivers, they certainly can remember incidences that happen from other series and try to bring that into tonight. We'll see. Short track racing, you never know what you're gonna find, and I think we're expecting to see Blaine Atkin, that same move that he just put down on Roth, expecting him to do it once again on someone of our front four.
And let me amend my statement just a little bit, because maybe, just maybe, we will not see the end result of that rivalry, if there is one, take place here tonight, because, oh yeah, next week we go to another short track, following week we go to another short track, we finish out the season with a short track, so you got your pick of where you want to settle the score.
Oh yeah, and you got to make sure that if you're going to settle a score, that you actually settle it in that race, knowing that they could come back at some point, either later on if you don't fully take them out, or they can come back at you the next week.
Guarneri is going to get us back underway yet again, and that number 16 with Campbell, Johnson, Steinmiller, and now Blaine Atkin, the top 5. Looks like it will once again be a single file restart, as that iRacing pace truck will make the left-hand turn to pit road, and we are now officially into the second half of this race at USA International.
Yeah, if anything, this is going to be helping Blaine Atkin. Now he can try to pick and choose when he wants to attack, as now he's got to figure out how to get by the 63, and Seth Harleston goes around our pole sitter.
And he almost had it saved, overcorrects it back up towards the wall. Caution's going to fly yet again for the 9th time tonight.
Man, and that's just coming in. One of those things of heavy braking into the corner, and just already was losing the back end before he even entered corner number 1. Tried to save it, just overcorrected it, but luckily was able to save and hold on.
Harrelson had been to pit road to take on his first set of tires 10 laps ago. A lot of the earlier restarts were on the older tires. Could this have been a case of not being used to the slickness of the new tires going into the first corner?
Tires could have been cold in that situation. We've been just running caution laps during this whole entire time, and if you're not trying to keep those tires warm at all times, they obviously can cool off, and it can hurt you entering these corners. Also, looking at the track temp, well, like we said earlier, about 30 laps into this race, the track temp went up. But due to the fact we've had so many caution laps, the fact that we're not putting a lot of heat into the track, it is cooled off down to now 80 degrees, back to where it started in the start of the race.
Well, he may be making a series debut tonight, but how about this avoidance by David White? He was side by side with another driver. I think it was James Goshen at the time. Harrelson spins down into the middle lane. I'm surprised there was actually enough wiggle room for David White to get low enough to avoid.
Yeah, I think for White, it was a lot of, oh no, there's a car high, and oh, there's a car low, and able to hold on and avoid everyone. It's still in our top 10 for this 83 machine, even though he's been trying to figure out how to drop back. I think he's slowly finding that buffer zone where he feels comfortable to be racing around these guys.
We don't exactly know what the fuel window is for these drivers, so it's a little surprising to still see Anthony Guarneri still out there. Same for Gerald Campbell, same for Cooper Johnson. Campbell has been out there for 79 laps. He was on pit road earlier on in this race, but that was just for damage repair, and then 79 laps as well for Guarneri and Cooper Johnson. So it's kind of a question mark of when do these drivers elect to come down pit road?
I think they're mainly might be looking around lap 100 to 120 might be the furthest that they go. But they're going to be trying to push it out as far as they can just to hope that they've got the freshest of tires at the end of the race so they can be making some of these bold moves like we've been seeing from Blaine Atkin and others. But you also got to be careful that you don't want to have a Seth Harlson type of event where you spin out entering these corners with the colder tires.
Kevin Ruff was involved in the caution prior to this one, so he did not get the lucky dog. He does get the free pass under this yellow, so he is now one lap down, another caution, and he would be back on the lead lap, which would have us with 19 cars in the lead lap. Currently we have 18, and officially out of the race now, like he will finish in the 21st position, is Kyle Johnson, after the incident we saw him have back during the, I believe it was the 7th caution, the contact between him and the 81 of Shane Lake.
Yeah, a lot of our favorites that we were kind of marking off as, hey, they could win this race. They've been getting caught up in a lot of wrecks recently, and the two drivers that I'm keeping my eye on that have not really been able to make a lot of moves forward, but are still keeping their cars clean, that's got to be John Whitendorf as well as Christopher Morris Jr. They've been steadily staying quiet just inside the top 10, but both those drivers, I think they could easily make a charge up to the front if they can keep their cars clean.
Kind of seems to be their MO, though, doesn't it? Where we really don't see them work towards the front for the first half, but then all of a sudden they seem to kick it up to a new gear. I mean, if we go back to the vintage Clothing 87 series that the G4 Sim Racing League had, remember back to Bristol when Christopher Morris Jr., he was up and over, flipping him, arrow rolling at Bristol, and he was still able to bring that thing back for a top 3 run.
Never even had to use fast repair after that flip, but we are green once again, and now it's going to be Anthony Guarneri, Gerald Campbell, Cooper Johnson trying to hold on, but I think the driver that's got the most to worry about is going to be Hank Steinmiller. He's got a hungry 0.5 of Blaine Atkin coming.
He's stuck between a rock and a hard place right now because I think Johnson spun the tires there on that restart, so it stacked the 63 up, and then he, as you said, had the 0.5 right behind him. Steinmiller had to get out of Dodge. He's going to lose a number of spots because of it.
Yeah, he's going to be stuck on the high side and just continuously losing positions here. Steinmiller, once he finds a spot, he's got to come down as quick as possible. And now Blaine Atkin's got to set his sights to Cooper Johnson. And Johnson's going to be stuck in this very similar situation. But Blaine Atkin wasn't able to get on the throttle. They're still side by side for third place.
That time he at least had a little bit more room as, wow, he got really loose off of turn 4 on that inside line with those fresh tires. Again, tries to the inside of Johnson through 1 and 2. Jake Hounshell following in his tire tracks. Looks like Atkin will clear the 14 by the time they get to turn 3. Nope, Johnson back on the top side, battles. Now Atkin's going to get that grip that he needs. Off turn 4, he'll clear for the 3rd spot.
If you can somehow keep Blaine Atkin on the inside coming out of 4, he's been loose there multiple times, and I'm starting to get flashbacks of back to our season opener back in Nashville, where we were seeing Atkin getting loose out of 4 multiple times before the final lap, but coming to the white flag, that's when Atkin spun around.
And now Johnson stuck on that top side. He is fading back. Hounshell got around him. Whitendorf does the same. And the train on the inside line continues on with Morse Jr., Steinmiller, and then Caden Thur in the 57. Battle right now is side by side for the 6th position.
Yeah, and right now it's kind of wait. I think that's the best option for Jake Hounshell, Whitendorf, and others behind. Just wait this out. Follow Blaine Atkin. Try to stay as close as possible. Try to make the 0.5. Pressure him to use his tires early so you can outbeat him later on.
On board with Blaine Atkin as he's starting to close up the gap between himself and second place Gerald Campbell. This was about 7 car lengths a moment ago. It's now down to 4, now down to 3. Hello, right onto the back bumper of that 25 coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, and will we see Blaine Atkin force the issue here to try to get by the 25 machine, or will they play nice? As we're past halfway marker, this is usually when you give everyone 0 space. You try to hold for everything you've got. But right now, the older tires versus the newer ones. Blaine Atkin looking extremely quick. You got to wonder, when will the 25 get out of the way, or if he will ever get out of the way?
For the time being, things are relatively calm all the way through the field. We do have a couple of battles brewing. Cooper Johnson, Hank Steinmiller for 7th. Also, AJ DeMarzo and Seth Harlson for 13th. But up here at the front, Blaine Atkin looking for the runner-up spot on Campbell. Campbell not going to give him a lot of room to work with there through 3 and 4.
He's trying to squeeze him down low, but not giving him too much. Actually giving him plenty of room on the inside. Now they're going to be side by side. Campbell's hoping he can keep space, but battling back strong. It's the 25. He's got to figure out how to get down below and somehow get between the 05 and the 02. But just like that, Jake Hounshell coming with a lot of speed, and also Whitendorf.
Saw a little contact there between the 05 and the 25. Atkin trying to push Campbell up out of that second groove to be able to get the advantage. He will clear him now when they get down to this corner. Wow, Hounshell really loose, again loose, up into the side of the 25 car.
Yeah, and those are just drivers trying to push it and make room for themselves, as the 25 of Campbell able to come down in front of Whitendorf. And now points leaders 1 and 2. They're 4 and 5 at the moment.
You notice that Campbell kind of tucked down quickly in front of the 33 of Whitendorf, realizing this is a potential championship battle even as early here as race 9. Whitendorf wants by. He's using the bumper.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there going through the corner, and now coming into 3 and 4. We'll see how these drivers are going to go as Coking stays low, letting the drivers on by.
Now remember that Campbell is probably, I think, going to have to come down pit road at some point to get tires, I would assume. Whitendorf has already been to pit lane to get his Goodyears, so he's got an advantage right now in the 25. That's why Campbell is desperately trying to keep him in his rearview mirror.
Yeah, right now Campbell as well as Granary hoping for a caution to come soon, because this is hurting them dramatically. Also, you got to think of Cooper Johnson and Steinmiller. They're hoping for some type of caution to come out because they need tires as well.
Still the battle for that 4th position between Campbell and Whitendorf. That time Campbell trying to get back to the throttle, almost loses it out of turn 2. Whitendorf looking to capitalize, but he just can't seem to get that straightaway speed. Now he's to the left rear of the 25 off of 4.
Yeah, I'm expecting a bump to be utilized here. Whitendorf has to get by. He's losing ground on our front 2. They're looking like the favorites of Jake Hounshell and Atkin, as Granary is kind of just, he's a sitting duck. He's waiting and looming, but it looks like Blaine Atkin not really pressuring and in any type of position to feel like he needs to make the pass now.
Yeah, Blaine knows the situation. The only thing I would worry about, though, if I'm that 05, you've got Jake Hounshell right on your back bumper as well, and Hounshell has shown that he can have somewhat the same pace as Blaine Atkin after he was able to get himself up to 2nd place.
Now I'm watching this battle for 4th once again. Whitendorf to the inside. And it looked like Christopher Morris Jr. was the one that was being a little bit impatient, giving Whitendorf a little bit of a bump of, come on, let's go, let's make a move. Also a pass for the lead.
It's going to be Atkin going back to the point. He'll edge ahead here into turn 1. Guarneri having to give up the spot. Boy, Hounshell drove it deep there into that first corner. Almost got up into the 16, and now is going to have to deal with Guarneri for 2nd as Atkin tries to pull away.
Yeah, I mean, the reason Hounshell is driving so deep is the fact that he's trying to stay as close as possible to Blaine Atkin until Atkin starts to fade off. But like I said, Atkin's pace that he's been putting down looking very similar to the way that he won at Richmond, which was dominant. He has so much speed that I think that he can really start pulling away, but he does not want to use up too much of his tires.
Hounshell still trying to get around Anthony Guarneri for that 2nd spot. Behind them, you've now got Christopher Morse Jr., who's trying to get by the 25 of Gerald Campbell. That would be for a spot inside of the top 5. Then behind them, Hank Steinmiller trying to reel in this top group.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, Gerald Campbell, he's putting so much pressure that he's allowing the other drivers that are even on older tires to catch up and run down the other machines. Granary has lost 2nd place. Hounshell able to make the pass, and now Whitendorf is going to be trying to make a move for 3rd.
Guarneri trying to go back to the inside of Hounshell for 2nd place. Not going to be able to do that as he's trying to run, it looks like maybe a defensive line against John Whitendorf. Not allowing him to get to his inside, but that's really hurting him on corner X, as you can see right there. Whitendorf, nice run down the back straightaway, but could not quite get to the bumper of the 16.
I mean, you got to give great credit to the 16 machine. He's been out there and has not pitted yet. Been on those so much older tires, about almost 70 lap old tires compared to the other drivers that have already pitted around him. So very impressive right now by Guarneri.
That's the 19 of Randy Coking down there on the apron, out of the way of the race leaders, multiple laps down, as he was actually just on
Caution
pit
to the
road
back.
a couple laps ago. And is it for the 19 stopped on the back straightaway?
I think it might be for Randy Coking.
Possibly might have spun, which is why he was down there. We'll have to wait and see about that. I thought he was just getting out of the way of the race leaders. Double check on that with a replay.
One of those things of going through the field and seeing what exactly possibly could have brought this caution out.
I don't see any problems for the 19 car.
I know he was low, but we're going to continue to look through and find exactly where this caution is. But this is now giving an opportunity for Campbell, Steinmiller, as well as Graneri to all come into the pits. And a driver that's joining them that's kind of surprising me. Actually, I take that back. Looking like Graneri, Campbell, Steinmiller, Cooper, all coming into the pits.
Cycling through the field here, and it looks like it is for that 19 of Randy Koking, who was almost coming to a dead stop on the back straightaway. I'm not exactly sure what the circumstances of that was. He was slow coming off of pit road there on the apron out of turn 2. As we'll see, nearly comes to a complete stop here on the back straightaway. When we see him punch the throttle is when the caution actually comes out. So I'm not certain what the circumstances were there for Randy.
I think it was due to the fact that he was almost stopped, like you said, and due to the fact that lap traffic was coming, bringing out the caution there. I mean, the inside apron on the backstretch is not very long, and there was a little bit of the piece of the 19 car over the line, and so that possibly was what brought out this caution here, which hurts Blaine Atkin, I think, the most out of all those drivers, because he did not want a caution. He wanted this thing to stay green.
Absolutely. Houndshell going to be behind him, and as you mentioned, this caution, a little bit of a godsend for some of those drivers that really needed it, like Campbell, Guarneri, Steinmiller actually down pit road again, as you mentioned as well, Caden Thur, Cooper Johnson came down, so did David White, Shane Lake. Pretty much everybody from 10th position on down came to pit road, and again, much like we saw when Atkin, Houndshell, Whitendorf, and others came down pit road, our top 10 has kind of shuffled up again. Atkin, the leader, Houndshell second, Whitendorf and Morse Jr. up in the top 4, but now Bo Brady is back up in the top 5. He's 5th. James Goshen is now in 6th. Jason Houndshell, who remember was all the way up there in that extreme high groove on one of those restarts, he's now up to 7th with Peyton Hill and AJ DeMarzo 8th and 9th on this restart. So remember the chaos of the fresh and old tires on that one restart when we had Blaine Atkin and James Roth make contact? We might see version 2 here on this restart.
Yeah, I mean, this was the best thing that could have happened for Gerald Campbell and the rest of the crew that just came into the pits, because they needed a long green flag run. So those drivers that came into pit road on that last caution, they would use up some of their tires, be a lot more aggressive in wearing down their tires. And now you've got the freshest ones on track and hoping that this thing stays green for less than 50 laps to go.
Well, it looks like Randy Koking, who did bring out that yellow flag, he has now brought his machine back to the garage area. He'll finish 20th. And the driver that was very happy to see that caution come out, Kevin Ruff, is going to get his final lap back. So 19 cars running, all 19 on the lead lap to settle this thing out here tonight at USA International.
Exciting action to be seen as we're going to be double filed up. And it's going to be, like I said, back from 10th on back. All those drivers have fresh tires. And they're going to have about 32 to about 40 lap fresher tires than the rest of the field. Gerald Campbell able to take off. Jake Houndshell going to be trying to figure out how he's going to duck in and follow suit. But he's got to watch out for Whitendorf to the inside.
Cautions out. Shane Lake in the 81. Seth Harrelson. I think that was also the 71 of Kevin Ruff. They're all wrecked on the front straightaway.
Was not able to get going. And those were some of the drivers that just taking tires, and the fresh tires might have hurt these drivers a ton, as it was Lake spun the tires, overcorrected, and ruining his day.
Yeah, that car smoking as he leaves the scene of the accident. Seth Harrelson, the pole sitter, and the lucky dog from this latest caution. Kevin Ruff involved as well. We'll take a look here off of turn 4, and sometimes here with these restarts at short tracks, when you're in the corner, in the turn, that's the toughest place for you to be able to restart, because you're turning your car at that point to the left. So if you spin those tires, it's going to spin to the left.
Ooh, I'm trying to take another look at this, but I think Shane Lake might have saw an opportunity to get a little bit of payback there by hitting Ruff.
We'll take a look here and see from another camera angle.
Because when he was spinning, he easily could have locked down his car and instead he continues to let those tires run until he hits the 71, then stops, and then takes off. So questionable there, but that car was with momentum still moving. But those two have had contact before, while Kevin Ruff was trying to slow down and avoid that contact.
Tough break there for Seth Harrelson. Started this race from the point. Started on the pole, his first of the season. And had actually been doing a pretty good job keeping himself still up inside of the top 10, despite most of this race being off of a pit sequence of everybody else. But this is certainly not the way that he wanted his evening to end, as he currently is on pit road. He just actually left pit road after some damage repair on that 07 machine. Shane Lake still on the pit road getting damage repaired. Kevin Ruff was not on pit road yet during this caution period.
Yeah, Ruff luckily did not scrape the wall as hard as he could have, so able to still stay on track and able to continue running. But after that little green flag run, Gerald Campbell able to go up one position up to 9th place, but that is really the only big movement of all these drivers.
Yeah, didn't get much of an opportunity to be able to see those drivers on the fresh tires make their way through drivers ahead of them that we know are at a deficit in terms of the rubber underneath them. We'll have to maybe wait for this next restart. But now if you're Blaine Atkin, you said earlier wanted to keep it under long green flag run. Now if you're Blaine Atkin, the closer we get to the end of this race, do you mind the fact that we're having all these yellows so you don't have to defend that top position of Jay Counshell under green flag conditions?
With how amazing his restarts have been, I don't think that he minds it at all at these final 50 laps or so, just because now he can just pull away, feel like he's comfortable, and not feeling like there's any pressure from Jay Counshell to try to use the bump and run, because Counshell's got to figure out how to catch up to the 05 after the great restarts that he's been having. And it's one of those gray areas that we're seeing here for these officials of, hey, when can you move up? I know one of the rules that has been kind of talked about with the officials of when you can come up. There was the rule at the beginning of the season of you had to stay in your lane, could not cross either lane where you were at the start of the line until you crossed the start line. And we've been seeing Blaine Atkin really come up and crossing the line so early because he's got such a big gap. Wonder if that's something that the officials are going to look at after the race.
Well, after a week hiatus, it's great to be back here broadcasting the G-Force Grand National Series. This is race number 9 at USA Speedway, the USA 150 powered by Fade Grips. Next week, we head north to Corn Country, Iowa Speedway for the Smartway Remodeling 150. It's going to be interesting to see the storylines that carry over from tonight's race into that one as we get one step closer to crowning the champion. Blaine Atkins gets us back underway here at USA.
Single file restart. It's going to give Atkin plenty of space, up to a 3-car length lead already. When we look back for the passing that's going to be going on back in around 9th place, that's where you got Gerald Campbell trying to get by Goshen. Has already done that. Now trying to get by Hill.
A battle for 7th between Hill and Campbell. Behind them, AJ DeMarzo up inside of the top 10. Great run for that 5 machine. He's going to get around Goshen for that spot, but he's got the fresh tires of Steinmiller behind him. Campbell completes the pass on Hill. He'll now move into that 7th spot. Now sets his sights on Jason Hounshaw.
And Blaine Atkin, looking at the pace that Gerald Campbell's putting down, he's one of the fastest cars of 2nd place on back, but our leader is running about 2, almost 3/10 faster than the rest of the field as he's trying to pull away up to a 0.6 lead.
Looking at the 20 there, the Bobby Allison throwback of Bo Brady, and both for him and Gerald Campbell tonight. It's kind of the old adage, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Both of these drivers were up in the top 5 in the early stages of this race. Got involved in a wreck, and now the caution's out. It's Harrelson in the 07, Ruff in the 71 on the back straightaway.
Yeah, it looked like Harrelson got onto the gas way faster. Ruff got a little loose out of the corner, and away both drivers went.
Both those drivers were involved in the caution prior to this. That sustained some pretty extensive damage, and now even more damage added to both of those Chevrolets, as we'll take a look at the replay here. And, well, what was a good night starting to turn bad night gets even worse for Seth Harrelson.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's bad about getting back here in the back half of the field late in these races. You got a lot of machines that are extremely damaged and aren't going to be running the same way that they were before, and it's hurting a lot of them. Ooh, questionable call. Christopher Morse Jr. in the 3 into the pits, trying to get some advantage here for the final couple of laps.
see what the situation is going to be for him. Of course, Christopher Morris Jr., I'm trying to remember which race exactly it was that he did not participate in earlier on this season. It dropped him down a number of spots in the standings and subsequently really took him out of the running for the championship. So maybe trying to go for a race-winning move here off sequence with everybody else.
Trying to remember what race that was too. I believe that might have been Bristol that he missed
I
out on. As the drivers are trying to figure out how this race is going to go for a lot of them, because we've already know that Gerald Campbell leading the charge of drivers that have the freshest tires. It was all the drivers that had gotten passed by Gerald Campbell, except for Christopher Morris Jr., who's still ahead of the 25 machine that just came into the pits, deciding, hey, we're just in a losing battle. Let's get fresh tires and get this thing at the end.
Yep, Peyton Hill, James Goshen, AJ DeMarzo amongst those coming down pit lane. So more than likely, aside from possible crash damage in these final 30 laps or so, that's probably going to be the last time we'll see them on the pit lane. Is Blaine Akin, Jake Hounshell, John Whitendorf. That's your top three, and really for the most part here tonight, those have been our three mainstay drivers inside of the top five.
Yeah, and we talked about how Whitendorf, he was running around 8th to 10th for most of the first half of this race, but then once we hit the halfway marker, decided, hey, I'm going to start moving my way up front, and has been in the top three ever since. Bo Brady, same with Gerald Campbell. Comeback stories probably of the race after the way that their race started, with both of them being in contact, as well as you can add, Blaine Akin involved in that. He had front end damage from that first initial incident. That hasn't really slowed down the 05 too much, but a lot of these cars around really fifth on back have pretty much some type of damage on them, except for maybe Christopher Morris Jr. might be the only exception to that.
And again, though, folks, you can't yet give the win to any driver in particular, because we've seen how the short tracks have played a factor more so in the second half of the race than any other portion. Blaine Akin leading this race. Go back to the season opener at Nashville, spun on the final lap. Got Jake Hounshell up here in second. He was really strong at Richmond, but he got involved in a wreck late in that one. So you cannot yet say that these are the drivers that are going to be in the hunt for that win at the end of this race, because there's still going to be 30 laps to go when we get this green flag.
Yeah, and honestly, I would not say this race is done with carnage until about 3 laps to go in this race, which then, who knows? This race could be ending under caution. Actually, we have one green-white checkered attempt that these drivers will have, so we could possibly be seeing that. Pace truck is off. Blaine Akin already on the throttle and pulling away for that 05.
He'll leave them side by side for second. Whitendorf trying to stay to the bottom of Jake Hounshell. Hounshell's going to clear him by the time they get into turn one, though. Campbell right into the back bumper of that Skoll Chevrolet, though.
Yeah, and then also it's going to be Hank Steinmiller. He's almost 3 wide as Gurneri thinks otherwise for that 16 machine. But right now, Campbell is only thinking, I got to make the moves now, because he's got to watch out. You got to watch out for Peyton Hill. He's going to be leading the charge with the freshest of tires.
Now Peyton's back in the 12th position. Hank Steinmiller in 6th is the highest running of the drivers. Oh, sorry, actually we got a spin back there. James Roth on the 4. No caution yet. Now the caution comes out.
And it was Roth coming out of corner number 2. He just got loose. That looked all very similar to what happened to the 71 on that last caution.
And speaking of Kevin Ruff, prior to going back green, he has brought his machine to the garage area, so his third start of the season not ending the way that he wanted it to, as we'll take a look and see what happened here to James Roth. And I thought maybe we might not have the caution come out, but as we're going to clearly see here on this replay, he was facing in against the inside wall, would have probably had to back out into the racing line to leave the scene of the accident, and so race officials feeling there's no need to have that kind of a situation, throwing the yellow flag.
Yeah, great call by the officials to try to help everyone's safety out there. Drivers did come into the pits. Bo Brady following in, as well as Jason Hounshell with drivers coming into the pits. He also could throw in James Roth after that contact, trying to get that damage repaired.
So as I'm currently looking with those two drivers coming to pit road, I think it's safe to say now with this caution that everybody now has kind of made their bed from here till the end of the race. I very much doubt we're going to see anybody else coming down pit road for anything for their teams to be able to do except for possible crash damage repair.
Yeah, I think Campbell is the only driver that we've seen with the fresher tires being able to make such bold moves of making about 4 positions up. And if you're going to make a pit stop with our front 3, you're going to be going all the way back to about 17th place, even further than that possibly. And it is going to be a struggle to make so many passes when, like we've been seeing all race long, a caution comes out almost every 5 laps or even sooner than that, which isn't giving you enough time to make these bold passes.
Blaine Akin undoubtedly has led the most laps here tonight. Not certain what the total is, but he's definitely been out in front for a majority of this race. Houndshell's been right there with him, though. The problem is for Houndshell, with these constant restarts, Blaine Atkins getting that advantage of when he wants to accelerate and kind of catching Houndshell flat-footed. If Houndshell can get into a long enough run, it almost seems like he still has enough pace to be equal, if maybe not a tick better, than Blaine Akin on the long run. He just needs that long green flag run to happen. These restarts are killing him.
Yeah, and if you also look at the front bumpers, Blaine Akin, yes, he was part of that contact with the 20 as well as the 25, but that front bumper still looks good. If you look at the front bumper of Jake Houndshell, it is bent up, dented in. He's got some heavy front end damage that could be hindering the 0-2 from trying to make any type of moves here that could put him in a winning position.
Couple of drivers back there just in the latter half of the top 10 that could easily play spoiler depending on what happens in these final 25 laps or so. Got Anthony Guarneri back there. He spent some time out in front on pit strategy. Solid outing, currently in that 6th position. Caden Thur, we didn't really talk a whole lot about him in this race at all, but that M&M's machine running solidly in 7th place. And Cooper Johnson, after a great qualifying effort of 2nd, he's still up here in the top 10, holding down the 8th position.
Yeah, and then you're going to find yourself with Peyton Hill, Christopher Morris Jr. with those fresher tires, going to be trying to make their moves, but they're out there trying their best. But it is going to be a tough and tall road for them. I think right now, Gerald Campbell, probably the biggest threat for our top 3.
Gerald Campbell, so far this season, has not won at a short track. He's won twice this year, but never at a track configuration lower than a 1.5 miles. We'll see if maybe he can get his first short track win of the season here tonight. But Blaine Akin back through the gears, starts to pull away, opens the gap, heading for turn 1.
Yeah, and Campbell, he's trying to find an opening. He's got to come down in front of Steinmiller and will do so. Side-by-side action for 2nd place. Whitendorf, he's where he needs to be. Trying to get by that of driver of Houndshell. And Whitendorf doing that perfectly. Yellow, though, comes out. It's going to be David White in the 83 machine.
Spinning on the back straightaway is David White, making his debut here this evening. So far, still on the lead lap, but will bring out the 14th caution of the night. And the last 3 cautions now have been in that back straightaway vicinity.
Yeah, it's coming out of 2. Just the looseness that these drivers are dealing with. I think White might have brushed the wall and then completely got spun around by Bo Brady, who just was like, get out of my way, I need to start moving forward now.
You know what this is reminding me of? Practice. In practice, you see drivers out there pushing their cars to the limits, especially off the corner, and then you see the back end kick out. These drivers are realizing, you talked about this earlier, that the moves they make now with in between these cautions, 1 or 2 positions are so important, so they have to go, and they're maybe asking a little bit more of their race car and the tires underneath them than they're capable of.
And also with the fact that we're under under nighttime conditions, it is cooled off. Outside temp, we started off with it being 79 degrees for the outside temp. It's down to 77 degrees outside temp. The track temp has gone down a degree to 79. So there's a little bit more grip, but that means the track is cooled off. Not a lot of heat is going into the track. That means there's not a lot of heat in the tires, and that's where we're seeing a lot of this struggle, trying to find that grip so that you can get off these corners just as fast and as well as you were earlier on.
Yeah, and see, that's the big thing, too, because with the pacing laps these drivers are running, doesn't matter how many laps they were running out there under green flag conditions, it's going to cool those tires down running under this pacing laps, which are about 45 miles per hour. So it takes them a little bit of time to get around even a small track 3/4 of a mile in length. So, yeah, those tires are going to be slick with cooling down under these pace laps. And I ended up noticing under the last round of pacing, the 57 of Caden Thur actually went down into the grass off of turn 4. Now, no, over on the Enter 2003 sim, a reason that we'll do that sometimes is to actually cool those tires down. It doesn't wear the tires down as much, but if we're seeing these drivers slipping and sliding around right now, I'm not sure you really want to cool those tires down. He's doing it again there. He's seeing through turn 4.
I think it's more so of just trying to entertain themselves. Some of these drivers, with how many times we've had caution laps, why not? I mean, like I said, the USA International Speedway does have a dirt configuration here on iRacing for all those dirt oval guys. And so, it gives you an opportunity to get a little bit of a feel of some dirt track racing that Thor is feeling. And I know I also saw Cooper Johnson following suit on that last caution pacing laps we were doing also.
Caden Thur is sponsored by M&M's, and you remember that commercial where Kyle Busch's car got hijacked by the M&M's machines driving crazy? Well, maybe they hijacked Caden Thur's machine here under pacing. Who knows?
We'll have to take a look and see maybe with a close-up here as we are getting closer and closer. Less than 20 laps to go here, Seth. And we're running out of cautions for these drivers to have before we could possibly be finding ourselves with a green-white checkered. And we only have one attempt at that green-white checkered as pace truck lights are off. We're getting ready for action.
We're running out of laps, and as we saw in the last couple of restarts too, drivers are running out of patience. We're starting to see those front bumpers, the chrome horns, happening more often now than we did in the first half of the race, and it's just going to continue to ramp up the longer that these laps continue to tick away, inching us closer to that checkered flag. Blaine Atkin again going to get us back underway with John Whitendorf, Jake Hounshield, Gerald Campbell, and Hank Steinmiller. Single file restart this time for the 05 as he starts high, ducks low, and back through the gears. Green flag back out with 17 to go.
Single file restarts is going to be helping Gerald Campbell out the most. That 25 machine can finally get up to speed and right on the bumper of the 02 and right back to action. As these drivers are running well, up to already a half a second lead is going to be Atkin over the rest of the field as Whitendorf and Hounshield, they're struggling right now to try to keep up with the 05.
It's all right there. All 5 of those machines from Whitendorf back to Guarneri, all pinned to the inside line. If you're going to get by someone, you're going to have to move them up to that second groove because they're not going to give you the bottom in these corners. Campbell the closest there to Hounshield in that battle for third place.
If you want to hear something super scary, Blaine Atkin just put his fastest lap down, that last lap, and he is continuing to try to run faster and faster every time.
I think we get the answer that we were wondering earlier on of whether he was kind of pacing himself. Yeah, I think it's all out the window now. He is going the fastest that his car is capable as Campbell actually lost the touch with Hounshield for a brief moment. Hounshield got to the bumper of Whitendorf, but now he falls back to the DuPont Chevrolet yet again. The battle for third back on into turn 1.
I think we're starting to see those tires might have equaled out, but Campbell, he's going to have to make a move. That bumper might have to be used and get that 02 out of the way. And Hounshield's been moved a couple of times so far this season, and it has cost the 02 lots of positions and almost wrecking him out of a couple of races. So Hounshield hoping that he's not the pinfall once again.
Nothing doing, at least for the moment, for Campbell. We saw there, 9th place position change hands. Christopher Morse Jr. getting around Cooper Johnson. He now sets his sights on Peyton Hill and Caden Thur up ahead. That 3 car out there on about 13 lap pressure tires.
Steinmiller!
Yikes!
Steinmiller just got that 25 machine completely sideways, able to save it, but now Steinmiller's under fire. Guarneri, the 16 machine, he's bumping and trying to get this 63 out of the way.
And you see how the 25 of Campbell actually ran wide there through 1 and 2. Something like that can throw off a driver's rhythm. An incident over in turn 4 really affected Gerald Campbell even as late as the entrance to turn 1.
Yeah, now Campbell looking like he's trying to get back into that rhythm. He's got to try to run down the 02. Blaine Atkin, he was pulling off and he was pulling away pretty quick, but now he's kind of stalling out. Whitendorf, he's been running just a little bit faster, but I don't think it's fast enough. It's still 6/10 is the difference.
What a save there off turn 2 by Anthony Guarneri as he continues to run side by side for Steinmiller, 5th position. Right now, half a car length ahead at the start-finish line. We'll see if he can complete the pass over here in 1 and 2.
That last lap, Atkin ran 100th faster than the 33 of Whitendorf, keeping it around 6/10. And it is now grown to 7/10 as Blaine Atkin, he's finally hit his groove as we're coming to 9 laps to go.
Guarneri finally completes the pass. Further back behind them, Peyton Hill and Cooper Johnson. They're battling just inside the top 10 for 9th place as Blaine Atkin right now, a little less than 6/10 of a second between himself and John Whitendorf. And let's not forget, we've been talking about it all night long. Whitendorf, for the past 2 weeks, has been able to gain ground on Gerald Campbell for the points lead. Right now, he may only be running 2 positions ahead of that 25, but that still is points he would gain if those two finished in the positions they're currently in. But Whitendorf, he wants to gain more points than that. He wants to get the bonus points for winning this race.
Yeah, and it would be his first win of the season. The consistency from the 33 machine has been so amazing. No wins this season, and only 27 points back from our 2-time winner of Gerald Campbell.
Things all single file now, all the way back through the top 15. Got a couple of battles brewing, but nothing side by side yet. We'll keep it here on the top 2. As you can see, 2.5, maybe 2 car lengths now into 3 between Akin and Whitendorf.
Yeah, and right now, Whitendorf, he has finally hit his marker. He's been running about a tenth to 2/10 faster than Blaine Akin. Akin might have run out of steam for those tires. He just ran about 2/10 slower once again to Whitendorf. Whitendorf is there as they're coming to 5 laps to go and they cross the line again.
Whitendorf with a great run off of 2. Gonna look low here into 3. Not gonna find room to be able to do so. You have to wonder if he's going to make his move, where it would be. Is he going to make it himself or wait for Akin to make a mistake? Here it is. Into turn 1. Whitendorf gets loose to the inside of Akin. Akin saves it after contact.
He moved him, but was it too early to move the 0-5? He could fight back. He's possible to see. But Whitendorf trying to get his first win here at the U.S. International Speedway. Can he get it here at the USA? But also, with that little bit of battling, with a little bit of shuffling, it could bring back Count Shell here as they're coming to 4 laps to go.
There's an old driver saying, race how you want to be raced. There was contact when Whitendorf got around Akin. That leaves the door open for Akin to give a little bit of contact back to the 33 if he can get back up there in the hunt for this race win.
Yeah, and right now, we're coming to 3 laps to go. Gerald Campbell finally possibly going to be able to get under. Yellow flag, though! Yellow flag is going to be coming out as contact made up front. That's going to be Hank Steinmiller around.
63 of Steinmiller on the front straightaway headed for turn 1. And this caution comes out prior to the white flag being displayed, which means after all that we saw, it sets us up for a green-white checkered finish.
Trying to figure out, I mean, that right there, carnage for a lot of these drivers. Unexpected to see this yellow coming out, but Christopher Morse Jr. heavily damaged after that incident as well.
Campbell was making a move there to the inside of Houndshell. He got loose, it stacked them up, and then, yeah, just some rather unusual contact there between the 63 and the 3. I didn't see a whole lot of it looked like I saw some space between the two of them. Not sure. We'll look at another angle here.
Could have been, I mean, the way the noses are, you can get under another machine and you practically turn them, and that looks like that might have been exactly what happened.
See if this gives us a better shot here. Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, the nose of Christopher Morse Jr. almost literally lifted the rear wheels of the 63 off the ground.
I mean, rewatching it, he did. He lifted up that rear quarter panel of the 63, putting them into the wall, and now we're going to have our one attempt at a green-white checkered, and now we've got some cars that are damaged that are going to be staying up front. Steinmiller, as well as Morse Jr., they might have been involved in that wreck, but they're holding their positions in 6th and 7th. They are drivers to watch out for with the damage that they just took.
Yeah, it didn't look like a whole lot of damage was sustained by Hank Steinmiller, more so to the right front than anything, but there were other drivers that we saw back during the first caution that stayed out that we were a little bit surprised about, and they were still able to keep pretty good pace. I think it's the situation here. You just don't want to give up that track position. If you lose 1, 2, maybe 3 spots here on these final 2 laps, okay, but that's better than losing 7 to 10 spots if you come to pit road.
Oh boy, the restarts have just been changed to single file restarts for this attempt. And
single
now
file or double file, I was going to ask you, I mean,
they just changed it to single file. They looked like they were stacking up, and the admins decided it is time to go single file for this one.
it's the first time tonight that John Whitendorf is actually going to be the control car for the restart. So I think really it's going to come down, since there's only 2 laps to go when we do get the green flag. Maybe not even that. You know, Whitendorf, he's got to be on it here on this restart. He's got to have a gap between himself and Blaine Akin going into turn 1, because we saw even after his near spin, Blaine Atkin had the car to still get back up to the bumper of the 33.
Yeah, but the main issue, though, is the fact that Blaine Atkin was able to get out to over a half a second lead just by on the restart straight away. I mean, before they even got into the corner, he already had a major lead, and it took Whitendorf about 10 laps to run down the 0-5. Will it be different this time around? I think Whitendorf might be in the best catbird seat to be winning this race because I want to be the car starting just based on how dominant we've been seeing Blaine Atkins restarts.
You have to wonder what's at the forefront of the mind of the driver of the 33. Is it getting his first win of the season, or is it the fact that if he wins, he would be closing up that points gap between himself and Gerald Campbell even more? Whitendorf, Atkin, Houndshell, Campbell, and Guarneri. That's the top 5 as we get ready to go back green. It's a green-white checkered finish here at USA.
Blaine Atkin was able to get a great restart. He's going to be staying close enough. I think he's got a shot here as he's right on the bumper as we're coming out of 2.
Will he move the 33 is the question, and how long will he wait? About a car length and a half between the two. Heading to the corner, Atkin smokes the front tires going into 3.
Which is going to be now blocking up. Houndshell now giving Blaine Atkins a chance.
Spin.
Houndshell middle. That's it. This race is over. John Whitendorf's won this thing.
Caution is out. Whitendorf had hit the line. I thought maybe they'd race them back here after taking the white flag, but the pace truck comes out, picks up the race leader, and John Whitendorf is going to get his first win of the season here tonight in the USA 150 powered by Fade Grips. And you got to go back to the move that he made for the race lead on Blaine Atkin. That was the move that he had to make at that point in time, and that was the race winning move.
Short track racing, most likely the bump and run is going to be the move that wins you the race. John Whitendorf able to get it done. Blaine Atkins got to be kicking himself that he didn't make the move when he locked up those tires. He could have sent it a little bit further, maybe got the 33 a little bit more out of shape and could have made the pass there, but not able to. But that yellow that came out, it looked like it was back around Bo Brady and Caden Thor that made that contact that initiated all the carnage that bringing out our final yellow.
We'll go back and take a look at what happened there, but as John Whitendorf comes out of turn 4, we're going to watch him do his burnouts here tonight at USA International, and what a couple of weeks it has been for this 33 team. You talked about the hard luck that he was finding at the beginning of this season in comparison to the 25 of Gerald Campbell, but then he was able to utilize the last 2 races to cut down what was nearly a 100-point gap down to 27 points, and he will continue to cut into that here tonight with his first trip to victory lane.
I mean, with how close the points are right now, I mean, this could be giving John Whitendorf the points lead with this win. I mean, massive props to the 33 machine and getting this thing done. And due to where also Jake Houndshell finished, that could be bringing this into possibly a 3-car battle for the championship. Hank Steinmiller, he was able to finish in 6th place. So really, our top 4 still going to be close. And with only being 3 races left, any bad day could really take you out of contention, but hoping other drivers follow suit.
Absolutely. And you know, if we're looking at a driver to maybe look at down the home stretch of those 4, you can't really pick one because, as you said, all of them finished this race inside of the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, incredible day for all of them. I think the driver that was hoping for a better day, 5th in points, Jeff Green, he was not able to get that day. Early exit, finishing in last place in 24th position. I think this probably takes his contention out of a championship run.
Here's a look at the replay of what brought out the caution to end this race. Brady had made the pass on Caden Thor, then kind of pushes up the track. 57 gets into the back of him and nowhere for Peyton Hill in the 84 car to go. The race leader, I think, had crossed the start-finish line at the time that this wreck took place, but with the caution coming out, race ends under yellow, and John Whitendorf is officially your winner here tonight at USA International. We'll take a look here now at the finishing results from the action here tonight. I don't want to call it chaos because it really wasn't. It was just typical short track racing.
Yeah, I mean, so much of just drivers. I talked about it in the middle of the race, the fact of, you know, braking zones being one of the key factors, and also just the nose of these cars can easily lift out the back end. We were seeing a lot of contact of drivers in the middle of the corner and on the straightaways that caused a lot of cautions to come out. And we kind of had a feeling it was going to go to green-white checkered. Yes, we had a chance of possibly us finishing within regulation, but I don't think either one of us had that thought come across our mind.
And, the funny thing about it, too, I look at some of these guys like Whitendorf, Blaine Ack, and Gerald Campbell, and we were going, wow, because we couldn't believe that they weren't up there inside the first two rows of qualifying, but they were up there when it mattered. Definitely had good race setups in the long run and for these short spurt restarts as well to be able to finish in the top five. Great run there for Anthony Guarneri. I think this might have been the most competitive we saw the 16 car all season. Led some laps here tonight. Finished solidly in the top five. Steinmiller in sixth. Morse Jr. in seventh. Good run there for Cooper Johnson as well. Limited number of starts this year, but started on the outside of the front row and gets eighth. And the streak continues for Peyton Hill. He's again going to finish inside the top 10 in ninth. And pole sitter Seth Harrelson started up front, led a good portion of the beginning of this race, then got into trouble a couple of times there towards the midway portion of this race, but still was able to salvage a top 10.
Yeah, I think that is a great rebound for the 07, and especially with the way that those final 30 to 40 laps were going for himself, a top 10, not bad at all. As the drivers look like they might be set for interviews, we'll start things off with Jake Hounshell.
Hey, Jake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us? We'll see if we can get him here. We'll try again. Jake, Sam and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us? All right, looks like we may not have our third place finisher on standby just yet. We definitely will get an interview with him here momentarily. See if we can, while we're waiting on that, let's see if we can get a word with our second place finisher here, Blaine Atkin. Hey, Blaine, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, man, we know that when you come to a short track, it's always going to be a good show. And what a heck of a battle there between you and that 33 in the closing stage of this race, both prior and after that last caution. You were there within striking distance of him on that green-white checkered. What little more did you need to be able to get around him? And it looked like you might have wanted to use the back bump or use the bumper there, but kind of looked like you were a little indecisive going into turn 3.
Yeah, I definitely knew I could get to him, but I didn't want to take him out. I'm not that kind of driver, so I was just trying to lay off of him there. But, I mean, he did a heck of a move to get around me there. But, I mean, I just wish I had a little bit of a better shot for that. Should have took tires a little bit later in the race.
Yeah, I mean, Blaine, it looked like the drivers that were trying to save their tires for later on, they used them up, but weren't able to cut their way through traffic as well. Both yourself and John Whitendorf came in about 85 laps before the end of this race for tires. How important was it to have the freshest tires out there?
Well, I think it was a big deal. If them guys had a little bit more time, they would have definitely been out in the lead and stuff. But, I mean, it was more about who saved the best and all that.
Well, Blaine, a great run for you here tonight. A dominating performance after you got your car out in front. And a great battle there at the end. I know you would have loved to have put this thing in victory lane for a second time this season, but well-deserved second-place run. We're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Oh, yeah, I want to thank SP Carburetors and Anthony for all he did to help me out with the Instagram stuff today.
All right, that's Blaine Atkins. He's going to finish second place here tonight at USA International. Once again, congratulations on the great run there, Blaine. And we got a lot of short tracks coming up here in the future, so we'll hopefully talk to you again.
Yes, sir. See.
All right, let's see if we can now dial up our third place finisher, Jake Hounshell. Hey, Jake, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us? We'll try one more time here. Jake, you got us up here in the booth? I'm assuming that probably Jake is currently away from his computer, so we'll see if we can be able to get him in here after this victory lane interview, as we're now going to go down and talk with tonight's race winner, John Whitendorf. Hey, John, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flatout Racing Network studios. You got us?
I got you loud and clear.
Oh, man, what a race for you here tonight. Slowly, methodically worked your way up to the front of the field, finally got that race lead, but then the caution comes out. You know there's going to be a green-white checkered, and one of the fastest cars of the night's right on your back bumper in Blaine Atkins. So what kind of strategy were you formulating under those pace laps prior to the green-white checkered?
Well, I made sure I reminded the race control that we had a single file restart, and then I just made sure I got a good restart. And if the caution was going to come out, I hoped it was going to come out quick, which it kind
You
of
know,
did.
we're in the home stretch of the season now. This was race 9. We got 3 more races left, all of them short tracks. You're able to pick the victory up here tonight at this short track, but I was wondering on that restart, which was in the forefront of your mind most? The opportunity to get your first win of the season, which you were able to do, or the fact that where you were running at the time was going to continue to gain you points on the 25 of Gerald Campbell, which you have continued to whittle down week after week after week with that championship looming there in 3 weeks' time.
Well, we've finished in front of him past few races at least, and that's the main objective every day. Every night we come in here is to try and finish in front of Gerald, even if it's like it was at Texas where I finish just inside the top 10 or whatever it was, and he finishes around 10th. So it's great to get a win, but most importantly, finish in front of him.
Yeah, John, I mean, you had to make the move of the race using your bumper to get Blaine Akin out of the way. How was it trying to make that move on the 05 that was looking so strong all day?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to hang up there after the restart that we had. I got around Jake and just kind of hung around, just saved my tires because I knew I had guys with fresher tires behind me. I wanted to be able to hold them off if I had to, but they never came, so I started to attack Blaine a little bit, and he had about a second lead on me, and before I knew it, I was on his bumper, and I had an opportunity to take it, and so I took it. So glad it worked out. It wasn't the cleanest move by any means, but I'm glad it worked out still.
Well, John, congratulations on your first win of the season, a big one here tonight at USA International, and it's going to be interesting to see what that points gap is going to be now heading into Iowa next week. I got to ask you, with having a win now at a short track and knowing that it's the shorter configuration tracks here to finish out the year, does this give you confidence going into those races, or are you still kind of going in skeptical knowing that the short tracks a lot of times are so unpredictable?
Yeah, I mean, it's just about trying to keep it clean if you can. Didn't have a good qualifying run tonight. Started right in the thick of things, so the main objective was to try and keep it clean, and that all worked out. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens going forward.
That's John Whitendorf. He's going to pick up the victory here tonight at USA. John, we're going to turn the microphone over to you now, let you do some shout-outs.
Yeah, just want to thank you guys for putting this on tonight, and Chris for everything that he does with the league, and Gerald, he's been racing me clean. We had some good battles earlier tonight, so looking forward to the next week.
John Whitendorf in victory lane here tonight. We'll see if he can carry this momentum down the home stretch of the G-Force Grand National Series. Once again, congratulations on your win here tonight. John, go enjoy it.
Thank you.
And it looks like we will not be able to get an interview with Jake Hounshell. Found out that he is actually having some microphone issues, which is why we were not able to get in contact with him. But a great run for Jake here tonight, 3rd position. And as you said, Sam, this definitely could be starting to look now like a 4-horse fight down this home stretch with these final 3 races left.
Yeah, it looks like points have been updated for the drivers. Gerald Campbell's lead coming into today's race was 27 points. It's now down to 7 points difference between our front 2 of Gerald Campbell and John Whitendorf. But the drivers in 3rd and 4th place of Hank Steinmiller and Jake Hounshell, they're still within striking distance, but they are in a position of a bad day in the next 3 races. That is going to be taking out their chances of a championship run.
Yeah, definitely kind of hanging by a thread there for those 2 drivers. And that 7-point gap between Gerald Campbell and John Whitendorf, if people were thinking in terms of the new point system that NASCAR uses, that's about 7-8 positions. Not here in this series using the old format. That could be as much as 2 positions between those 2 drivers. And when you consider how close drivers are going to be when we get to the upcoming races at Dover, at North Wilkesboro to finish out the season, and of course next week at Iowa, that's minuscule. That's really close battling that's going to be going on between those 2.
Yeah, next week at Iowa, it's going to be really a giant wild card of the final 3 races. Dover is going to be incredible to watch, but I think it's going to be drivers trying to make sure they don't hit the outside wall. And then at North Wilkesboro, that track, it's brings out some of the best racing that I've seen on iRacing in recent times. Can't wait for that season finale. But I think Iowa, there's going to be multiple groups for these drivers to run, and it's going to be exciting to see how they're going to be pressuring one another at short track racing.
Well, tonight at USA set the tone for the 4 in a row short tracks to finish out the season, and it was a good one. John Whitendorf picking up the win in the USA 150, powered by Fade Grips. Next week, as Sam alluded to, we're going to Iowa Speedway for the Smartway Remodeling 150. But boy, it's starting to get good here with only 3 races remaining. Sam, appreciate you joining me here under the lights for this one tonight.
It's a pleasure there, Seth.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in this evening. We hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. We'll see you guys next Tuesday when we're at Iowa here for the G-Force Grand National Series. For Samuel Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Have a great evening. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.